Folks, if I can have your attention real quick, I appreciate it. Members being inducted into the Hall of Fame this evening, if you would, we'd appreciate it if you come up here on the stage. We'd like to get the group picture before some of you have to leave early this night. So if you're being inducted into the Hall of Fame tonight, come on up on the stage right now.
Yeah, it is at the top. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll get started. Welcome you to the 9th edition of the Nelsonville-York Athletic Hall of Fame. We're so glad you're here with us this evening. We just got a little bit of housekeeping to get done before we get started. I'd like
looking around the area, what have you, the members of our Hall of Fame committee. If you're a member of that committee, would you please stand? That committee, right forward over there, that committee consists of Nathan Dean, Whitney Maiden, Cheryl Nunley, Greg Jones, Jay Klein, Greg Ward, and myself. And we are all so glad you're here with us this evening. And as always, if you are a past inductee into the Nelsonville-York Athletic Hall of Fame, would you please stand at this time? Folks, we've sent out the programs. Like I tell everyone every year, you'll see your name on that program. If you're an inductee, that doesn't mean you're coming up here in that order. When we do that, we pick them out of a hat, so you never know when you're going to have to come up here and talk, so you can be nervous for most of the night if you like to. Our website is nyhshof.com, Nelsonville-York High School Hall of Fame.com. And if you get a chance to look on there, some of the great jobs we've done with that website. All your interactive videos are on there from past years and what have you. And it's a great place to look up the Hall of Fame members and all of that. So make sure you take a look at that when you get a chance. I don't think I have a whole lot else. As always, this Hall of Fame celebrates athletes here at Nelsonville-York High School. During our time as Nelsonville-York, we lost 2 members of our high school teams on the field. One was Bruce Boo Evans in 1969, and the other in 1974 was Clint Hoskins. This year we lost one of our Hall of Fame members also, just a few months back, or about a month ago, Dave Safranco. So if you would you please bow your heads for a moment of silence for these 3 members. Thank you. Hall of Fame members that are being inducted tonight, your plaque at the end of this night will be hung down at Penrod Gymnasium, down at the end of the schoolway here, and that will be done by the end of volleyball season. You'll be able to see your plaque down there during basketball season and what have you. I believe that's just about all I have at housekeeping. Just a couple other things. We'll be introducing you at the football game tomorrow evening. If you would be at the end zone closest to the high school at 6:20 tomorrow evening. We'll be introducing you at 6:30 before the game starts. So you'll meet Jay Klein, one of our Hall of Fame members there at that end zone at 6:20, and we'll introduce you on the field at 6:30 tomorrow evening. I'd like to introduce to you now, before we begin our meal, to the chairman, the founder, the president, and historian of the Nelsonville-York High School Hall of Fame, and that is my friend Nathan Dean.
Hi everybody, like Steve said, my name is Nathan Dean. I'm the president and historian of the Nelsonville-York Athletic Hall of Fame. Before we get started, I know Steve has already mentioned the other committee members. I do want to give a couple more special shout outs. So thank you to our school board president, Dr. Mike Jacobo, for being here, to our superintendent, Mr. Rick Edwards, and to Christy Poling and our amazing nutrition staff. I don't know if there's too many Hall of Fame ceremonies that are going to serve you prime rib, so enjoy. Some of you have noticed on the program, again, as Steve said, you can hover your phone over that QR code. When you go to that website, you can submit your nominations completely 100% online. You can scroll and find members in their bios. You can see the committee members, and you can make a monetary donation. As you see, a lot goes into this, from the food to the awards to everything that you'll see tonight. So any monetary donation you would like to make, you can make on it. Now back to this year's class. Since this started, we've welcomed now 9 groups into our Hall of Fame. Men, women, coaches, athletes, and contributors who have helped turn Nelsonville-York athletics into what we see today. This year's class is special in more ways than one, mainly because it has the largest graduating class range between our inductees. It spans over 100 years. As we go throughout the program, I think there are a few words or phrases that you'll hear over and over that stuck out in my mind as I was interviewing and talking to many of your teammates and friends. You'll hear about how great teammates and leaders that they were, and that they continue to be in their daily lives. You'll hear about how hard they had to work for everything that they got. Nothing was given to them. But my favorite is hearing about how they made an impact on their teams and their programs. In my mind, without a doubt, this class embodies our athletic motto, pride, tradition, and excellence. We're extremely excited to have you and your loved ones here. Tonight, you will hear about our athletes and contributors who collected 58 varsity letters. 46 years of coaching experience is here tonight. 33 all-conference selections, 18 all-district selections, 11 sectional, district, or regional champions. 10 school records were broken, 10 TVC championship teams, 7 collegiate athletes, 4 TVC players of the year, 1 district player of the year, 1 Nelsonville Greyhound basketball legend, and a man who assisted over 100 student athletes in achieving their dream of going to the next level. Again, ladies and gentlemen, we're very excited that you are here tonight with us. I'm going to turn it back over to Steve.
And now it's my pleasure to introduce the president of the Nelsonville-York School Board, Mr. Micah Crawford.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Steve. My name is Dr. Micah Crawford, and I have the privilege of serving as president of the Nelsonville-York City Schools Board of Education, and I'm a proud graduate of this district. On behalf of the entire board, Superintendent Edwards, Treasurer Hurd, and our administration, we'd like to welcome all of you to our campus. For those of you who haven't been back for a while, I hope you enjoy our beautiful grounds and what we've been able to do with our facilities here. I just want to say something really quickly. About 10 years ago, young man, I can say that because I'm a little bit older now, came to the school board with a group of individuals and said, hey, we have this organized group, we're dedicated, and we'd like to do something positive for the school district. Needless to say, it wasn't an easy sell. And 10 years later, we are continuing to celebrate the student athletes and alumni of Nelsonville-York. So a huge thank you tonight goes out to everyone who made this possible. And I just want to say a personal thank you to our Hall of Fame committee who generously devote their time and talents. So please give them another round of applause. Thank you. I'd also like to thank our athletic department and Coach Klein, our athletic director, Jay Klein, our photographer and videographer, DNR Studios, and as Nathan already mentioned, the wonderful food from the nutrition group and Christy Poling. Thank you all so very much. We should also, let's give them a round of applause. We should also recognize that there are no small roles in this endeavor. Teachers, coaches, parents, siblings, family, classmates, fans, and above all, our student athletes each contribute to the synergy that makes Nelsonville-York athletics what it is today. Let me share a thought about athletics. Research shows that student athletes often excel academically, but it is far more than performance or statistics. Sport is a form of meditation, a way of knowing oneself deeply, body, mind, and spirit. This self-knowledge builds resilience, the ability to push through yet another drill, another play, another practice. But even more than that, it strengthens compassion. When you learn to push through challenges, you also learn how to encourage others, lift them up, and give of yourself. That is what we honor tonight. Our inductees are not only champions in the field or the court or the mat or the track, they are individuals whose lives remind us that athletics can make us better in many aspects of life. Their pride, tradition, and excellence became a gift to our school, to our community, and to all who look up to them as role models. Many earthly accolades are something to be proud of. Records, championships, grades, scholarships, careers, families. But our truest measure of success is not the applause we receive, but it's the lives we touch, the encouragement we give, and the good we bring into this world. And so, in this spirit of compassion, celebration, and connectedness, I have one simple ask for all of you. Some homework, if you will. Tonight, maybe after this, maybe before this week is over, hopefully before this week is over, call or text someone and tell them you're proud of them. Tell your classmates, your teammates, your friends, even if it's been years, don't let that moment pass. The inductees and your families, tonight we commend more than athletic victories and accomplishments. We honor the countless hours of dedication, sacrifices made, and the character you've shown. You remind us all that true greatness is not only measured in points scored or records set, but in the lives you've influenced, the encouragement you've given, and the good you've shared with others. What endures is a legacy of people who have given their very best, and not just for themselves, but for the pride of this community and the future of those who follow. That legacy is now yours. And Nelsonville-York is forever grateful. Once again, on behalf of the entire Board of Education and our administrators, please accept our deepest congratulations and thank you. Thank you all for inspiring, guiding, and blessing the generations of Buckeyes yet to come. I look forward to seeing all of you tomorrow night on Boston Field. And as always, go Buckeyes. Thank you.
And folks, you're about to eat one of the best meals you've ever had. I noticed as you were all coming in that this table over here seemed to be people who had been here before, so they know that that table goes further. And that get up and go. It's time to eat. After everyone's been through the line and we've gotten our food and we're eating what have you, we'll get started here with our inductees in order to not be here too late tonight. But if we would, this table take off and everyone get in line and let's eat. Both sides of the table, right? Thank you.
All right, welcome everybody. I'm Joe Higgins, and with me today is Nate Dean, president of the Nelsonville-York Athletic Hall of Fame. And we are here to announce our newest class of the Hall of Fame. We're going to begin with first our legacy inductee.
Yeah, so first our legacy inductee comes from the class of 1962 from Nelsonville High School. That's Dave Anderson. Dave played 4 years of football and 4 years of basketball. He was a multi-all SEOAL basketball player and as well as football player. He was also all-state third team. When you look back at some of the awards from our our legacy schools, we don't really have a lot of all Ohioans, and frankly, it was harder to make all Ohio back then. So anyone who can make that all Ohio team, it is very much deserving. And not only was he a very, very good basketball player, but as I started to look back at the newspapers, you have to start at a certain date and you have to end at a certain date. And I started in November, and the first article that popped up was a football game, the last game of the season, and he had a couple catches and a touchdown. Like, he was one of the main focuses on that team as well, even though basketball was his main sport. So he was a contributor and a great athlete in his time and on every team that he was on.
And then it looked like he went on to continue his career.
He did, yeah. So he went to Marietta College and played and graduated from there. And just another great Nelsonville area athlete to go on and further his education and further his academics and his athletic career at the next level.
All right, congratulations to Dave Anderson for the legacy inductee. Let's move on to our contributors for the Hall of Fame class this year, Jim and Gary Edwards.
Yeah, so it is hard to think of one without the other. They are two great men who have done so much for our area in general, and really our school district. And we would not have what we have here at Nelsonville-York without the efforts and hard work and determination from those two men. I was around them growing up, and I saw them always out, always helping, always giving back. And they always wanted what was best for our kids. And they had kids that came through our programs as well, and were great athletes, and they did everything they could to give back. So whether it was helping physically build the field that we have, our football field, or our stadium, or our weight room, or being part of the school board. They both are Nelsonville-York alums themselves, both graduated in the 70s, both played under Coach Boston and Coach McLaughlin, and have that understanding of what that culture means. And they've done everything in their ability and their power to help continue that on. And all of our student athletes have seen that, and they reap the benefits of that.
I love that you said culture, because Nelsonville-York has its culture, and I think these two are epitomes of exactly that. When you talk about this school has been fortunate to have a number of people supporting it from the outside, and I think these two would probably be on the top of those lists.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you still see them around constantly. And like I said, I saw them when I was growing up. Whether I was going up to train at one of their houses, whether that be indoor basketball court or high-speed treadmill, or just seeing them help out around here and wanting our student athletes to have the best or one of the best facilities in Southern Ohio.
And that's still going on.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is.
Congratulations to Jim and Gary Edwards. Let's move on to our distinguished alum.
Yeah, so distinguished alumnus, we wanted to make sure that there is a category out there that some of our alums kind of fall into, where and I'll just kind of give you the brief definition of what we're looking at. Mm-hmm. So distinguished alumnus will recognize someone who's achieved the distinction in the field of athletics, whether it be coaching, administration, or mentoring, even if it is not at Nelsonville-York. So that person is Ed Terwilliger, and Ed is a graduate from 1974. He was part of one of the very first, or the very first actually, TVC championship team in 1973. He comes from just that great establishment era of this is what we're going to be. And we talked about culture earlier, and Ed is part of that group that set the tone. They set the culture. With us becoming Nelsonville-York High School in 1967, it wasn't until about 72 when we really started to keep our footing, and then 73 with that first TVC championship in football really solidified kind of where we wanted to be. And Ed took that with him everywhere he went. When I called and informed Ed, and I've talked to him almost yearly a couple times, and he's a great guy, and he loves Nelsonville-York, and he always talks about being from Carbon Hill, and I was from Carbon Hill, so it was just kind of interesting to get that connection as well. But I know that he took everything that he learned here, from whether it was Coach Boston or Coach McLaughlin or any of the other numerous coaches that he had, whether it be football, wrestling, or administrators or teachers that he looked up to, he took that from this area and went out into the state of Ohio, and he made a name for himself. And you know, whether that be Coach of the Year awards for like the state of Ohio or district or, you know, the Columbus area, or he was even had Teacher of the Year awards. So he was more than just a coach. He was a mentor. He was a phenomenal administrator, and he's still doing that work today. He works for Ohio State, and he works you know, as part of their football staff and their high school recruit relations, you know, area. But you know, like I said, I called him and talked to him, and he said, "You may not be able to believe this, but I'm at a loss for words," and I know, I'm talking to him, I'm talking to him, you know, year after year. That's a lot, you know. And he texted me the next day and again just said he was really honored and he's very excited and thankful to be going in. And you know, he's already a part of 2 other Ohio High School Athletic Hall of Fames, whether it be the Ohio High School Football Coaches Association or the Columbus Area Coaches Association Hall of Fame. So we thought that it should be a no-brainer that although he may not have his coaching statistics here, he took what he learned here. He took the culture that was developed, that he helped establish, and he went out and he set the tone, and he represented Nelsonville-York to the best of his ability.
And he's still an advocate for Nelsonville-York. I know that a lot of our athletes have been able to speak with him over the years and kind of create some networking opportunities.
Yes, absolutely. And then there's also, so there's a funny story. I was working at another school, and we went to the coaches clinic up in Columbus. And one of the guys that was there was like, "Hey, I was behind this Ohio State coach, and he was setting up their rooms. He's like, we need to get somebody who knows those guys, and we need to go up there and hang out with them." And he's like, "Actually, that's the guy right there." And he said, "We need to know who knows that guy." And I turned around, and I was like, well, I could up and talk to him. So I went over and talked to him and said, "Coach Terwilliger, how are you doing?" And he started laughing, you know, smiling. "Nate, how are you?" And, you know, we went back to the table, and they were like, "How'd you know him?" I said, "He's a Nelsonville-York guy." We go back. So, yeah, he's always willing to talk about Nelsonville-York and loves the area and loves the school.
No, I think you said it best when you said this was a no-brainer.
Absolutely.
And so now we're going to move to, is this a new category, or we started it relatively soon?
It's something that started relatively soon. So essentially what it is we wanted to look at, you know, we have our legacy category. And really we have some athletes that would qualify and go in as legacy. The problem is we don't have a ton of information on them, but what we do have is we know that they went and they played professionally.
Right.
And so this next category or this next group of individuals going in, they'll be going in on one individual plaque. So the plaque will just be a running plaque. Every year, if somebody who is nominated from the area makes it, then we will just continue to add a name. And so this is our professional plaque. And when you look at it, you'll notice some dates. So the reason why we wanted to make sure this is the distinction was because you know, we have a couple people here who, I won't say a couple people, all of them played before 1950.
Yes.
And so, you know, again, it's harder to find that information, but they're from this area. They are from the schools or the makeup of what, you know, came into being Nelsonville-York. So we wanted to make sure those individuals were recognized. And so I'll go through here. You know, I have a list of them. So the first one's Bob Williams. He played professionally and for the New York Yankees between 1911 and 1913. And so right there starting off, like playing for the New York Yankees. You know, I was actually looking through, I was able to find pictures of all but one of these guys, and Bob is one where he's actually, I've got him in his Yankees uniform with catcher's gear on. So it was really cool to see that.
Yeah, so another person who's got an NY.
Oh yeah, another NY. Gotta love it. So yeah, so he was from Monday, Ohio, and so which was right up the road here. That, you know, would be who we are. You know, those students would go to our school.
Yep.
The next is Dick Kimball. So Dick went to Ohio University. He lived in Bookdale, Ohio. So, you know, a Bookdale grad here. But he was 6 years in the minor leagues and then was called up to the major leagues to play for the Washington Senators, and he was a shortstop. And so, you know, Dick, just another one from right here in Bookdale. Mm-hmm. The next one, John Lovett. So that's another Monday, Ohio student or athlete, and he played one season with the St. Louis Cardinals in 1903, and so he was part of that group. Josh DeVore, so Josh from Murray City. He played 7 seasons in the major leagues with 4 different ball clubs. He played for the New York Giants, he played for the Cincinnati Reds, the Philadelphia Phillies, and the Boston Braves. In that season where he was traded to the Boston Braves, he was part of the 1914 Boston Brave World Series championship team. So that's really cool to have a World Series champion from right here in Murray City. And I was even able to find some professional or some major league stats on that. So he had a career .277 average and had 11 home runs and 149 RBIs with 160 stolen bases. Not bad. Not bad at all. He was an outfielder, and one thing I found extremely interesting was he was only 5'6".
Yeah.
So obviously, athletes are much bigger now. But you have that Jose Altuve who plays professional baseball, who's not too far off. So
Josh DeVore.
And then our next one is Roy Wright. Roy was born in Bookville, Ohio, and he ended up playing 4 years in the minor leagues and then got called up pitch for the New York Giants. And so that was in 1956. So I was a little off when I said before 1950, but we'll go with 1960s. But yeah, so those 5 are going to go on a plaque. So that plaque will just have little notches where we'll put their name and then we'll put who they played for. And so we're excited to be able to include that into what goes into our Hall of Fame.
Absolutely. Give some inspiration to our upcoming athletes that maybe they'll get on that plaque one day.
Absolutely. If anything, that may be a plaque that's more than just I want to be on that wall. Like if you make that plaque, that's something special. So.
Excellent. Well, let's turn our attention now to our athletes for this class.
Absolutely. So the first athlete from Nelsonville-York High School going in is Randy Penrod. So Randy is a 1977 grad. He was a football, baseball, basketball athlete. He was part of 3 TVC championship football teams, and he was first team all TVC, first team all district, and a special mention all state player back in his senior year. And again, going back to that time, it was harder even to make special mention all state. Now multiple people for each position, for each team. But if you made any type of all state list back then, you were a pretty big deal. The really cool thing about Randy going in is that, one, his brother's in. So he and Rick are both going to be in, so that's really cool. The other thing is we have 3 essentially letters of recommendation for him from 3 of the 4 Nelsonville-York head football coaches, one of them being Coach Boston Sr.
Mm-hmm.
So that carries weight. But with Coach Boston Sr.'s write-up, it was to go to the all-league and all-district meetings, and it was him fighting for him to get on a spot on that team. So what's really cool is, it's essentially like he was writing it to us.
Yeah.
It said he's got the best hands. He's set every school record. He, this, and this. And while it still is, or the school was still in its infancy technically, he was one that everybody shot for. Everybody in the 80s watched him play, and that's who they either modeled their game or they wanted to beat what he did. But it did say that he had the best hands. Coach Boston said he had the best hands that he had seen. And again, coming from Coach Boston Sr., that carries weight. So yeah.
All right, our next inductee comes from the class of 1989.
Yeah, so the next inductee is Shawn Ward. Shawn and Matt Yinger were 2 wrestlers that year who went on to place at sectionals, districts, and state, just the 2 of them. So, as a team, they finished 10th in the state at the state meet. And it was just the two individuals. Shawn was a sectional champion, district champion, and then also placed 6th that year at the state meet. And talking with his teammate, Coach Yinger, he said that the thing is, he was actually about 30 seconds away from being able to go to win state himself. That just at the last second something happened, and he ended up falling in a match that he probably very easily could have won if that hadn't happened. So those 2 kind of pushed each other to get there. And Shawn is part of 3 TVC championship teams. He was the TVC MVP in 1989. So you go and you earn your state place, you earn your state recognition, you deserve to go into the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
So.
Our next inductee, a multi-sport athlete from the class of 94.
Multi-sport athlete, absolutely, and was very, very big in the women's track and field and women's basketball in that time. So the next person is Susan Crawford. So Susan, first team, all TVC. I'll start actually with her sophomore year because she's a 3-year starter. She was honorable mentioned all TVC as a sophomore in basketball. Her junior year, first team all TVC, second team all district, honorable mentioned all state. She led the team in scoring that year, and she even set a career high of 34 points in the game, which at that time was looked at as the school record. Now when it comes to our basketball records, I wish I had a chance to tackle them because I'd like to see what all of our point totals would be. But helped to go right into her senior year. She ended up with 811 career points. Her senior year, she was first team all TVC, first team all district, and again, honorable mentioned all state. So 2-time honorable mention all state in basketball. And the thing is, track and field may have been her best sport.
Right.
When you look at track and field, I mean, I'll just read you down this list. 3-time TVC champion in the 1600 meter, 3-time TVC champion in the 3200 meter, 4-time regional qualifier in the 1600, 2-time regional qualifier in the 3200. She set and still holds the school record for both events. So set in 1994 and still holds both of them. And she, in her 3 or 4 years of running total, I believe her first place came as a sophomore. She finished first place in 24 events in those 3 years, even to the point where there's stories of officials asking the other girls, like, oh, who's going to win this one? And all the girls pointed to Susan.
Who's finishing second?
Exactly, yeah. Who's finishing second? We knew Susan was going to finish first. So Susan goes in, again, class of 1994, basketball and track, and still up on our board.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see her name
That's awesome.
back to back in 1600 and 3200.
Very good. The next inductee, a receiver in football and a shooter in basketball.
That's right. So the next inductee is Eric Mitchell from the class of 1997. So I had Coach Mitchell as a coach, and so I kind of got to know him a little bit that way. But then as I progressed through this and I learned more and more about our history and everything, I went to find out that he was actually the first 500-yard receiver that we had in a season. His senior year, he had a tremendous year on the football field. I believe he was, if he didn't set the record for catches in a season, he was second that year. I will have to double check myself on that one, but just that year alone, 30 receptions, 535 yards, and 6 touchdowns. He averaged 17.8 yards per catch. And so, that was kind of the upbringing of, the newer style of offense that we were running. Ben Roby as quarterback, and Ben being our all-time leading passer and everything. And so Eric was 6'5", could jump out of the gym, could catch the ball, could run with the ball, was very, very good. And again, this is one where that wasn't his best sport. And so he was a first team all TVC, first team all district, and special mention all state in football in 1996, and that his senior year. But basketball is where I think a lot of people remember him most. So 355 points as a senior. He averaged 16 points a game and had 2 games where he had a career high 30 points. And he was part of that team that is known to be one of the best teams in our school's history. And so, they went to Alexander and shut the place down and defeated that state-ranked team. They were state-ranked as well. So he was a big part of that. And he was here for when we recognized him at the basketball game, and he was very excited to know that he's going in. And just looking at it, he was a 2-time first team all TVC, and he was a second team all district basketball player as well. So Eric Mitchell, class of 1997, going in. Well
deserved, and still giving back to the game. He's an official.
Absolutely.
In the area now.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the class of 99.
Yeah. So the next one, who is essentially part of the same team, is Eric Glass, and he was part of that great 10-0 season that we had in 1997, and when you looked at, especially after he graduated, there were a lot of categories in our record book that would have said Justin Gale, Dave Boston Jr., Eric Glass, and some mixed order. Probably Justin at the top still, but
Great company, though.
yeah, great company to be in. I mean, he not only, I mean, he took a pounding because he still holds, or he had the most carries in a game. He had third most carries in a career, or fourth most carries in a career, and was just constantly running through, whether it be arm tackles, shoulder pad tackles. There weren't a lot of people that were going to bring him down. So as a Nelsonville-York football player, he was a 3-time first-team All-TVC selection, a 2-time first-team All-District selection, and a 2-time Special Mention All-State. Again,
And top 5 in almost every category you have listed.
Top 5 in almost every category, and as I have it listed down here on the side, he's still in the top 10 in a lot of those.
Wow.
Some of them he's still top 5. And so
It's amazing.
he's just another one of those great Nelsonville-York running backs to come through, and he's a big part of why that 1997 team was so successful as well. He did play defense, but his contribution from coming out of the backfield just was, Hall of Fame worthy.
Absolutely. Our next inductee from the class of 2012, a great athlete, an up-and-coming coach as well, great coach, but even better man.
Yes, 100% agree on that. The next person, class of 2012, is my best friend, Casey Cox. He was someone who we looked up to in everything he did, whether it was how he performed on the field, how he practiced, how he trained, how hard he worked to do his job. And I think he embodied what the term is of do your job, because you can look at his stats, especially for basketball. 503 career points in 2 years and 11 points per game as a point guard. He had a career high of 31 points in one game. If his job was to score 30 a game, he would have scored 30 a game. Mm-hmm. But that wasn't his job. He ran the offense. He was a tremendous ball handler. He was a lockdown defensive player.
Absolutely.
He was an all-around phenomenal basketball player, and he continued to get better. And I tell everybody, it aggravates me because he's good at everything he does.
Yes.
And especially now that we're starting to get a little older, he still seems he's not. Yeah, he's getting even better. But no, he's a great mentor. And like I said, we looked up to him growing up with him. We knew that he was one of the best athletes in the class, one of the best students in the class. He was valedictorian of our class. He did all the right things. He wasn't someone who was going to get in trouble. He wasn't someone who, would make a bad pass over and over again, or would, take a strike 3 looking over and over again. He learned if he did something that was a mistake on the field or on the court, he learned from it, and he was that much better going up the next time. But looking at his batting, he has a career 344 batting average, which is phenomenal. A 400 on base percentage. He also pitched 28 strikeouts, and he led the team in assists in his entire career. He was a 4-year starter at shortstop. 2-time All-TVC, 2-time All-District, and again, one of my best friends and someone I still look up to as a man, and he's very, very deserving of going into the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely, well deserved there. We have one more athlete that comes from the class of 2013.
Yes, and this is someone who I'm very familiar with as well, and it's Caitlin Workman, or her maiden name was Caitlin Maiden. And so the maiden name should be very familiar to anyone who follows Nelsonville-York athletics. Caitlin, 4-year starter on the varsity volleyball team. She was not the tallest. She was, she packed a punch. I would hate to try to go up and block one of her shots, and it might have been a time I went in and tried to shag some balls to get them back, and I remember she would hit and I would just back up and I wasn't even going to try.
That runs in the family as well.
Oh my gosh, it does. And speaking of that in general, so Caitlin was a 2-time TVC most valuable player. She was the second 2-time back-to-back most valuable player in our school's history. Mm-hmm. The first person to do it was her sister Whitney.
Right.
And so, I think that's just something really cool to look back at, is maiden, skip a couple years, maiden. And, she lived up to everything that, she set her mind to. And she was, again, just a tremendously hard worker. And she played very, very high-level competitive spring volleyball in the off season, and something that her coach had raved about was the fact that her best position wasn't even what she played here at the school. Her best position was I believe it was back row or setter for her travel team. But what the school needed was an outside hitter, and that's where she excelled. So yeah, she was phenomenal. So looking here, she was, as a freshman, honorable mention all district. Sophomore, first team TVC, first team all district. Junior, honorable mention all state, first team all TVC, player of the year in the TVC, and first team all district. She repeated that her senior year, except this time she is a second team all state. And if you think all state's hard to get as football now, volleyball is almost impossible.
Yeah.
If you look at the all state list, you sit there and you go, where are all the names? Because they do not elect the same amount of people that the other sports do.
Yeah.
And so a second team all state coming from our area is phenomenal. And so she was also the district player of the year that year. And she just it was a part of a great group, a great team, the district championship or district finals team that was the furthest the school or our team has gone in our school history at that point. And so she was a big part of that, and their group in general were phenomenal. So she was a huge part of that.
An excellent class.
Yes, it
once
is.
again. And all of these will be honored in an induction ceremony in the fall.
Yeah, so September 4th is going to be our ceremony. We'll have that in the cafeteria again. I believe it'll be about 6 o'clock. We start at 5:30, but we'll do like a brief introduction, and then we'll do our dinner. We always have a great spread. So even if you aren't sure of who any of the people are, if anybody wants to buy tickets and come out, it's a phenomenal spread. And then we get started about 6 with speeches. So it'll be a good night, and then we'll do an introduction at the football game the following night against Coal Grove on September 5th.
All right, that's Nate Dean, president of the Nelsonville-York Athletic Hall of Fame. I want to thank him for coming in and doing this with us, and then congratulations also to the latest class of the Nelsonville-York Athletic Hall of Fame.
Once again, folks, welcome to the 2025 Nelsonville-York Athletic Hall of Fame inductee ceremony. We're so glad you're here. This year's class of the Nelsonville-York Hall of Fame, like the last few years, is quite spread out. We go back to 1962 to grab one of our inductees, and we take in another from as recent as 2013. We had two special categories this year, one which recognizes school system graduates who have competed professionally, and another which honors those who have gone on to make a mark in coaching or other capacities of athletic leadership. Our contributor category carries on a family legacy of giving to our schools from one generation to the next. Our class totals 16 this year, the second largest in our 9-year history. I told most every one of our classes that the reason I'm up here is that I'm old enough to have watched, played alongside, coached, or been coached by all of our inductees. Believe it or not, that is not the case this evening. We go as far back to 1903 to pick up one of our professional inductees. And while I was quite young, when our 1962 inductee took the court, I'm betting my mom and dad had me at your tables. At any rate, I've heard stories of all of you, and I'm also fairly good at making them up. So if you hear one that doesn't quite ring true, deal with it. When we first started this Hall of Fame back in 2017, our goal was to induct athletes in individual sports. We quickly found out that was going to be a bit difficult. Turns out Nelsonville-York athletes are just that, athletes. And in most cases, they've represented our school and starred in multiple sports during their time. So while we may focus on one sport, we hope to bring up all of your accomplishments during your time in our school system and beyond. I mentioned a new category this year, and that is our professional category. Our professional plaque will carry the name of those who have risen to the top ranks of their chosen sport. We hope to add to it from year to year as we discover those we were unaware of. This year we induct 5 gentlemen who reached the pinnacle of success in Major League Baseball. They are Roy Wright, a right-handed pitcher and Bookville High School graduate who pitched for the New York Giants in 1956. Richard Dick Kimball, also a Bookville High School graduate. He made it to the big leagues as the shortstop for the Washington Senators in 1945. Bob Williams, a catcher and Carbon Hill graduate who played catcher for the New York Highlanders, now known to you as the New York Yankees, from 1911 to 1913, playing in the legendary Polo Grounds. Josh DeVore, a Murray City graduate, and to our knowledge, the only World Series champion to come from our school system. Josh's 7-year career included stints with the New York Giants, Cincinnati Reds, Philadelphia Phillies, Boston Braves. This speedy infielder won series championship with the Giants in 1911, 1912, and the Braves in 1914. And finally, also from Murray City, John Lovett. John made his Major League debut with the St. Louis Cardinals in 1903 as a pitcher, and now holds the honor of being our oldest member, being born in 1877. Each of these men, from Bookville, from Mundy, from Carbon Hill, from Murray City, not only played the game they loved, but they reached a level that so few ever thought they could do. So we honor them by making sure their names will never be forgotten. Ladies and gentlemen, we present to you the inaugural members of the Nelsonville-York Professional Plaque. Let's give them a applause. We'll be hearing or talking about 10 of our inductees tonight. Each of you with us deserve to be in the Nelsonville-York Athletic Hall of Fame. And when your name is called this evening, we'd love for you to take a few minutes and give us a quick reflection on your time here at NY, what it meant to you, what you're up to now, and where you're at, and those you'd like to thank for making your induction tonight a reality. That being said, in no particular order, we draw names from a hat. Ladies and gentlemen, let's meet some of Nelsonville-York's finest. Our first inductee this evening is Caitlin Maiden Workman, one of the most decorated and dominant athletes in Nelsonville-York volleyball history. Caitlin is a graduate of the class of 2013 and the youngest member joining our hall this evening. Stepping onto the court as a freshman, she immediately cracked the starting varsity lineup, earning honorable mention all-district that year. Her sophomore season saw her lead the Buckeyes to a sectional championship and a district runner-up finish, as she was named first team All-TVC and first team All-District. As a junior, Caitlin's Buckeyes secured an unheard of 15-2 regular season record, another sectional championship and district runner-up title. Caitlin's dominance on the court earned her first team All-TVC, TVC Most Valuable Player, first team All-District, and honorable mention All-State. And then came her senior year, a season that would cement her legacy, leading the Buckeyes to an incredible 18-3 record. Caitlin helped the team win their third straight sectional championship, and for the first time in school history, the district volleyball championship. A historic moment that Caitlin made at the heart of it all. That year, she was again named first team All-TVC, and once more earned the TVC MVP honor, making her only the second Buckeye in school history to win back-to-back MVP honors. The first, another Hall of Famer, her sister, Whitney, nearly a decade earlier. Caitlin also received first team All-District, was named District 13 Player of the Year, and finished her career as a second team All-State selection. To recap Caitlin Maiden's remarkable career: 4-year varsity start, 4-time All-District, 3-time All-TVC, 2-time TVC Most Valuable Player, 2-time All-State selection, District 13 Player of the Year. Caitlin's accomplishments, leadership, and impact have solidified her as one of the greatest volleyball players ever to wear the brown, white, and orange.
There are very few players like Kate. Because of the game that she played, you could throw her into any position. She played probably every position on the court. She was libero, she played backroom, she played center, so she just knew the game frontward and backward, no matter what, could play any position and do it well.
I started coaching the same year she came into high school. It really helped me out coming in with that group, and Caitlin was maybe one of the biggest ones that really helped me and pushed me to become a volleyball coach.
Growing up, she was just always like so much smaller, but like small and mighty almost. Even being as small as she was, she always still came with so much power. She could get on top of the ball. She still was a powerhouse, even being as small as she was. So I definitely think that having Whit as an older sister and as a skills coach always like drove her to be better and to push and to be that athlete.
Caitlin is like a sponge, and she would listen to Whitney, she would listen to me, and she wanted to know ways to get better.
She led the pack always. Leader, not only like verbally, but also by action. Great work ethic, great as far as bringing the team together. When she was giving pep talks, it wasn't like, let's go round and round about all the things we need to do. It was more so like, let's just get it done. Okay, everybody knows what they need to do. Let's get it done.
I never really saw her get rattled too much, even like starting as an outside freshman. She, well, beyond her years, she just had fun with the sport and was a great teammate. She was our leader that people looked to, especially if things got tight, that she wasn't going to break or have like a mental letdown. She was going to, just keep playing.
As soon as we hit the court, I feel like there was a friendly competition. You kind of put that out of your brain when you were playing against her. There's definitely competition when we played against Nelsonville, and then as soon as the games were over, we would all hug and be best friends again. How did she become so athletic? How did she so good at everything, no matter what position she played?
Something that maybe a lot of people don't realize is not only was she a great hitter, but she was also a phenomenal passer. Probably one of our best passers on the team. She started as a freshman as a hitter, continued to be a hitter within our senior year. She even set some. So I think that speaks to just the versatility of her game. Good volleyball players can play any position on the court, and they can do it well with making very few mistakes in that team. She can do it all.
Shawn has always been one of my favorite people to watch play volleyball. She just has this natural ability to see the court, and she knows what's going to happen before it does. The way she moves around the court and the way that she's able to see the game while she's playing it is really something special. When we were younger, I was probably 15 or 16, and she would have been 8 or 9. And I remember hitting balls at her in my parents' living room, and even at that really young age, on carpet at the time, she was doing textbook push moves and just rolling out of them seamlessly. So then fast forward 7 years, and she's not only dominating on defense, which is completely expected, but she's also dominating on offense. She had a hard swing, but she also could place the ball, and that's really what makes a great volleyball player.
Yeah, she's just an awesome human being.
She is a hard worker, literally put her whole life into volleyball, and I feel like she definitely deserves it.
Congratulations. It's well deserved. It was an honor coaching her. She made me a better coach, a better person. I thank her for that, and I wish her the best of luck.
I think this is extremely well deserved. She was a great athlete and so much fun to play with. It's kind of cool to just see all these years later her success come to light, because it's so well deserved, and couldn't think of anybody more deserving of it, honestly.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present for induction into the Nelsonville-York Athletic Hall of Fame, Mrs. Caitlin Maiden Workman.
Okay, wow. I'm going to really try not to cry. I was like, oh yeah, I got this. I'm not going to cry tonight. I'm not going to get emotional. But I'm like, okay, well, that might be a little different now. I obviously wanted to first thank Steve and the Athletic Hall of Fame committee and Nathan for putting this amazing evening together for us all. I know that a lot of time and hard work go into this, and I really hope that you guys all know how appreciated you really are. And I wanted to say obviously hello to everybody that's here, and thank you all for being here to spend time celebrating this special group of people that I am now so humbled to be a part of. From the time I was informed of my induction earlier this year, I've spent a lot of time doing a lot of reflecting on a lot of things. I must say that truthfully, I actually had been experiencing a little imposter syndrome, being included in such an amazingly talented and influential group of people so well known to the community. But more so, I felt overwhelmingly humbled and blessed to be included in such great company. While preparing for tonight, I had the time to think a lot about my experiences growing up playing the one sport that I loved the most. From the time I was probably 3 to 4 years old, I had a volleyball in my hand. That, along with a basketball, a shot put, and a discus. I did not play any of those other sports in high school, but as many of you maybe saw me back then, I pretty much anything Whitney had her hands on, I also had mine on, just trailing a little bit behind her. She, along with our brother Brandon, are who I saw at that time. They were my role models, and they are still my role models today. And obviously, although I'm biased, I'm confident that I really had some of the best. Apart from my siblings, I obviously can't reflect on my athletic and academic career at Nelsonville-York without recognizing others that were monumental in my experience. My parents for their guidance and wisdom when it came to helping me navigate my school-aged and young adult years and everything that comes with that. My grandma Joanna and great aunt Marilyn for their presence at all games and unwavering support. My teammates who I shared friendship with, failure, and success. and obviously my coaches for their commitment, guidance, and friendship, both on the court and in the classroom. Overall else, there were two main themes that came up for me while I was preparing for this evening, which is what I'll finish with sharing. The first and perhaps the most significant is the sense of community and togetherness I have always felt being involved in growing up in our small town. Pep rallies, midnight madness scrimmages, student sections, feed the team, Channel 15. Those are just a few of the things I witnessed and experienced, not just in my time as a high school athlete, but also as a child watching my older siblings go through school. The togetherness is a piece of this community that I know continues to exist because I can feel it every time I come back home. Sorry. It's something I look forward to feeling tomorrow night with all of you on Boston Field. And it's something that's in this room tonight happening all around us as we speak. The final thing that I will share this evening are the invaluable lessons I have gained from my time being a student athlete at Nelsonville-York that have greatly informed my life and how I navigate situations as an adult. I learned how to respect leadership, how to take accountability for mistakes and shortcomings, how to work together as a part of a team, how to show up for those around you. I've learned that a good working culture, or court culture is what we would say, can affect team dynamics and thus your intended outcome. I learned how to fail. I learned how to persevere, how to celebrate success. I learned that you have the ability to be influential to those around you, and therefore should strive to be a positive one. All of these lessons that I learned from my parents, siblings, coaches, teammates, and teachers have stuck with me. I have found myself coming back to them as I left high school and transitioned to college, and then to my first career at Nationwide Children's Hospital, and now to graduate school at The Ohio State University. I'm so honored and humbled to be here in front of you all tonight, but more than anything, I am so thankful for the support and the lessons I have been given along the way. It has always been, and will continue to be, so much more than just the athlete and just the sport. Thank you, and congratulations to all of the inductees tonight.
Our next inductee is a 1999 graduate of Nelsonville-York High School. In his time as a Buckeye, Eric Glass earned 6 varsity letters, 3 in football, 2 in basketball, and 1 in baseball. Eric is also a key member of what is considered one of the best football teams in school history. While Eric's hard work, dedication, and maximum effort went into his play on the basketball court and on the baseball diamond, it was on the gridiron where he made his mark. When you think of Nelsonville-York football, a few things come to mind: culture, tradition, and tailbacks. In the history of Nelsonville-York football program, whether the team has a successful season or not, one thing will always be true: the Buckeyes will always take the field with one of the area's best runners. The lineage of athletes who play the tailback position at Nelsonville-York include the likes of Hall of Famers Greg Smathers, Bill Woodson, Dave Boston Jr., Mike Bishop, Justin Gale, David Jolly, Derek Arnold, Casey Nungester, Dustin Young, and now, Eric Glass. Eric started his NY career as a fullback, his sophomore season earning all TVC academic honors that year. Moving a few yards back in the formation his junior year, Glass would take over the legendary Buckeye tailback slot. He would become the Buckeye bowling ball, coming out of the backfield, humbling defenders on his path to the end zone. With Eric's perfect combination of speed and strength, he was able to trudge on, shoulder pads first, into opposing defenders. Glass would help lead Coach Kevin Mead's balanced attack that season, rushing for 1,249 yards on 237 carries, averaging over 5 yards per carry and scoring 17 rushing touchdowns. Impressive stuff, but more impressive considering the quarterback of that team, Ben Roby, also threw for nearly 1,600 yards and 12 touchdowns himself. Buckeye opponents had not seen a Nelsonville-York offense that balanced in years. And it paid off with a perfect 10-0 regular season and the Buckeyes' first TVC title since 1994. The Buckeyes will go on to defeat Wheelersburg in the first round of the playoffs, where Glass would run for 3 touchdowns. At season's end, he would be named first team All-TVC, first team All-District, and special mention All-State. In his senior season, Eric would help the Buckeyes to an 8-2 season and a playoff victory again over Lucas Valley. Eric would finish the year bettering all his marks from the previous season, as he would rush for 1,374 yards and 18 rushing touchdowns, while still averaging over 5 yards per attempt. By season's end, Eric was once again named first team All-TVC, first team All-District, and special mention All-State. For his career on the football field, Eric Glass ran for a total of 2,918 yards, which remains 5th most in school history. He scored 38 rushing touchdowns and averaged 5.44 yards per carry. He undoubtedly carried on the Buckeye tailback tradition. And in 2020, he was selected to the 1990s Nelsonville-York High School All-Decade Team.
Eric was one of the hardest workers that I've ever met. He put in the effort, and much like many great running backs do, he served it. He played his time and he worked his way up into the ranks. Our sophomore year, he played fullback and did a great job, and then it was his time to shine our junior and senior year.
I admire just the way he handled life. Football, school, kind of everything. He had to, really work to get to where he was, and he always had goals set and achieve those goals. Eric was just hard-nosed, fearless. He was obviously a great running back and a workhorse, but I always loved to see him on the defensive side every once in a while also, because like I said, he was just your hard-nosed football player. So I wish he would have probably played more defense, but I think he also carried the ball probably more than many running backs in Nelsonville history.
He wasn't a great big guy, but he was very tough, and he did a great job for us at fullback. And then the next year, we knew he would be our tailback, and he had 2 great years at tailback for us. He and Ben were pretty much the heartbeat of those teams.
We have really good athletes, and in order to showcase them all, we had that really balanced attack. So it was really fortunate to have that 1-2 punch of Eric and Ben, and if you were trying to shut one down, the other was going to make you pay for it.
Just the way he carried himself, the leadership. He didn't really have to say much. It's just kind of lead by example. He would be the one that would be after practice running extra 40s, and he's doing the right thing at school. He's doing the right thing, off the field. He was just a great leader and led by example for sure.
He was a leader. He was one of the first people to the weight room, one of the last ones to leave. He was always going to do extra sprints. You always knew that he was a gamer. He was going to show up, give you 110%, and leave it all out there on the field.
He always gave you the same thing, just determination, courage, great athleticism. Again, not being a great big running back, he was so tough, never got hurt, and he was just an outstanding running back for us.
If I had to describe Eric in one word, it would be just accomplished. Everything he has accomplished, he's worked at. It wasn't given to him, or it wasn't handed down or anything like that. He's definitely worked for everything he has.
Both on and off the field, just being a leader, a good person, somebody who's going to give it his all, no matter what, to keep looked up to from a lot of younger players, and I think just his work ethic was, nothing was given. Everything he got, he earned. He brought just an incredible work ethic and leadership to our group of young men.
He was a leader on that team, and then when he was a need to speak up, believe me, the other players listened.
Those are some of the best times of your life, getting to suit up for the brown, white, and white. So there was nothing like going to battle with somebody like Eric every Friday night.
Looking back on all the things he's accomplished, I'm very proud of him.
I just want to congratulate him. It's very well deserved.
Eric, congratulations, man. What a great accomplishment. Well deserved.
Congratulations. It's very well deserved, and it was an honor playing on the same field as him, and an honor just to be his friend and being around him all the time.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present for induction into the Nelsonville-York Athletic Hall of Fame, Mr. Eric Glass.
Thank you, Steve, Nathan, committee. I appreciate it a lot. He didn't really prepare a speech, so therefore Kate was a little bit bad at that. So just bear with me. Again, I want to thank all the people that come before us, that played for this school. So when we got the news of this, and I started thinking about what it means to be a Buckeye, right? And my brother and I, as a kid, we would ride our school or bikes down to the city park all the time, and we watched the kids practice. And the one thing I noticed all the time is on all their jerseys and things, it said pride, right? And I started thinking about that when thinking about this, talking about it, and I wanted to go, kind of research, what that meant to me. And really, when it comes to being a Buckeye, it's taken all the people that came before you and the work that they put in, and the accomplishments that we've had as a team, with Ben and Zach that talked on there, and just being really thankful and grateful that I got to be part of those teams. As our junior year, my brother was on that team this year, so thank you for coming. And they were just leading us, to the next step all the time, right? And the definition I read for pride is a feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction, with one's own accomplishment. But in this case, it's really the school district, the athletic programs, and in my case, particularly the football program. And I'm just really proud to be a Buckeye, to understand what that means, to be a tailback at Nelsonville-York and carry on that tradition. It really means a lot to me. And even today, when I go out into, I work in the construction field, working. It gets to be a small world, right? You get, a job site with a bunch of people on it. Inevitably, right? There's somebody that knows about Nelsonville-York, that knows somebody that went to school here, or somebody that played football or another sport, wrestling, whatever it may be, and we talk about those things, right? And it still means something to me today to be able to talk to people about it, share stories of old friends, and things like that. So. Just really grateful, honored, to be up here with all the other people in this class. Thankful for the opportunities that it's given me, the things that it's taught me in life about determination, working through adversity, and all those things that come, that kind of Mike had talked about, that come with sport and being part of a team. Currently I'm leading large numbers of people. It's taught me to be a leader, to set a culture that is to be looked up to, and a framework to run a company or a project by in our case. And I'm just really thankful and proud to be here. One thing, the other thing, I'm going to share a little joke here a little bit, but when I knew Coach Reed was going to be here tonight, I was like, man, if I could have an extra yard for every time he told me that I wasn't Justin Gale, because I got an extra yard to do. So I was trying, Coach. But he did a great effort. That's all I can tell you. So, you know, that's important to me. The community, Coach Watkins is here. You know, everybody that's been part of this program, you know, in the past and in the future, I'm really honored, appreciate it, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Last year when we brought Eric Dean into the Hall of Fame in the contributor category, I mentioned that he also could have been inducted as an athlete or a coach. Our next inductee is much the same. Gary Edwards goes into our hall this evening in the contributor category. And it's hard for me to come up with someone who has contributed more to the success of our NY students and the development of the facilities of our school athletically and educationally than Gary Edwards. Except maybe his late father, Joe Edwards. And I know Gary will be proud to be mentioned in the same breath tonight as his dad. Before I bring up the contributor part, let me mention the athlete part. Gary Edwards is the 1977 TBC Most Valuable Player on the football field. He holds numerous All-League designations and was one of the most determined quarterback, wide receiver, and tailbacks in our school's history. I've joked with him often that Coach Boston could never find a place for him to play, so he tried him at every position possible. Truth is, he played wherever Coach needed him. And when he said to be my tailback, the TBC MVP was the result. Gary became a coach in our system for quite a few years after high school, mainly on the basketball court. And he was one of the best fundamental coaches we ever had in our system. But look around you though. Consider the facilities, both educationally and athletically, that Nelsonville-York is blessed with. Much of what you see is the result of the vision, hard work, and participation of Mr. Gary Edwards. As we are an athletic Hall of Fame, I would tell you that our turf field is a result of Gary's vision and planning. Our press box and stands, Gary's vision and planning. Our weight room, Gary's vision and planning. Middle school, elementary gym, Gary's vision and planning. Softball field, auxiliary turf field, football locker rooms, all Gary's vision and planning. And it does it in there. Gary didn't just envision these wonderful things, he engineered most every one of them. And then went out and did the physical work to make them reality. I've told him on numerous occasions as we discussed various projects that he should have been an engineer. He truly has an innate knowledge of all aspects of that field, and it's easy to see how much he enjoys it, especially working with the students of Nelsonville-York High School. As a longtime member of our school board, like his father before him, there has been an Edwards involved in every school building we have ever built, by the way. Gary Edwards has been a driving force behind the wonderful school system we call Nelsonville-York, athletically and educationally. And he'll probably say this because he said it to me quite a few times. His goal has always been to offer the students and athletes of Nelsonville-York the finest resources, facilities, and opportunities we can give them, no matter the size of our district. Gary Edwards has done just that.
Growing up, I guess I never realized that what my dad did was unique. I think until after I graduated from high school and kind of reflected back on it all. Because he was just kind of always there. Part of growing up, I always assumed that was just because he was my dad, but now I've come to realize after the fact that it's more because of who he is. I think my grandfather instilled in all of us that basically being a part of your community is a responsibility we should all take seriously, and giving back is more than just showing up. It's being there, and it's putting in the time, putting in the effort to try to make everything better, and I think that's something that my dad has always firmly believed in and continued to do.
In the 7 years that I've been here in the district, I've never encountered a school board member like him. A lot of good board members in my career, but none that have been involved to the degree that he He's not micromanaging, but always there to assist. Talk about legacy builders, and I think it probably be in reference to his dad. I think Gary has been a legacy extender. I think he takes that on very well. He understands the role his father played in the beginning of the school district. And I think he's always lived under that motto of make it better. And if we can't do what we can do on our own, we should be doing something. He has always tried to emulate the things that his dad tried to do for the district.
He has been a board member numerous years, going back as far as when my brother and I were in school. To me, that kind of says a lot, because it wasn't just that he was doing it to benefit our family, but he's continued to do it to benefit our entire community. I would say that his legacy is just the importance of the community, the importance of not just expecting the community to be there and be what you want it to be, but to be involved and help make it what it should be and make it what you want it to be for generations to come.
I don't think there's any part of this campus of my time that his footprint or fingerprints not. It's a reflection of his impact on the district, his dad's impact on the area. I think he emulates what he was grown up with, or his role model. And I think, not just his family, but his extended family. There are other young men and women who went here to school that kind of took him in and needed some help and guidance along the way, and he did that for a few of those folks. I think he also has helped a lot of families along the way, just like his father and others have. I don't think there's anything that he or his family's going to have an impact on.
I mean, I watched my dad over the years be a part of the athletic boosters, be a board member, be a parent. I watched him help build facilities, fix things at the school, fix things in our community. Not because it was something that he probably wanted to, but because it was the right thing to do, because it was important, because showing up is literally showing up and doing the hard work. He likes to be a part of hands-on work and building and creating things that you can see the final result of. And he's been a big part of a lot of the facilities that have happened in Nelsonville in the last 20 years. I mean, even going back is when the school consolidated all under the campus, and he was involved in that whole process of getting the elementary and the middle school and the high school all in one place. I think all of that together is something that he takes a lot of pride in and has enjoyed being part of. I mean, my dad helped our basketball team go to camps. He was around to help when the facilities needed improvements. He helped coach various teams over the years of mine and my brother, so I think all of those things are something that people often take for granted and don't realize are part of kind of what my growing up was, but also how he has continued to contribute to the school in different ways. A lot of those things, even though we're not around there, he's continued to do because it's the right thing to do for the community.
I've been proud to get to know him. I'm honored to have him as a friend.
In my opinion, it's something that's incredibly well-deserved. He is a big influence on who I am, but everything I do is a mirror of things that he taught me and instilled in me as being a part of our community. I only hope that one day I can be as key in building up the community around me the way I feel like he's had in Nelsonville.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present for induction into the Nelsonville-York Athletic Hall of Fame, Mr. Gary Edwards. Gary's unable to be with us here tonight, but we sure appreciate his contributions, and we'll make sure his awards get to him. Dave Anderson enters our Hall of Fame in the Legacy category. Dave is a Nelsonville High School graduate from the class of 1962. In his time as a Greyhound, Dave earned 6 varsity letters, 3 in football and 3 in basketball. As a Greyhound, Dave Anderson found varsity action on the football field early, taking over as quarterback as a sophomore after an injury left the team with a vacancy at that position. He would continue in that role for the next 3 seasons, earning all-league honors at that position. It was on the basketball court, though, where Anderson would really make a name for himself. Again, finding varsity action as a sophomore, he was a dominant force for the Greyhounds beneath the basket. And if you happen to remember the size of the court on the old Nelsonville High School stage, you know that underneath the basket was a pretty congested place. As a sophomore, Dave became an important piece to one of the best basketball teams in Greyhound history, averaging over 13 rebounds per game and helping the Greyhounds to a 15-10 record. They would then go on to defeat Crooksville for the sectional championship and combine that with a win over Fairland to claim the district championship. The team would finish as regional runners-up, but their fantastic run would end with a loss to an undefeated New Boston squad in the regional finals. As a junior, Anderson averaged 12.5 points per game, along with 16 rebounds, and led the Greyhounds to a second-place finish in the SEOAL. No small accomplishment if you remember the SEOAL and consider that Nelsonville was the smallest school in the league. Dave's efforts throughout the season landed him on the all-SEOAL team. As a senior, Dave Anderson was a force for the Greyhounds on both ends of the court as he put together one of the best individual seasons in Greyhound basketball history. He would average 16.8 points per game and total 275 rebounds on the year, averaging over 15 boards per game. He was second in the SEOAL in scoring that year, trailing only Jackson's 6'8" All-American, Ed Spriggs, who went on to star at the University of Miami. At the end of his senior year, Dave Anderson was first team All SEOAL, first team All District, and third team All Ohio. For his career, Dave Anderson averaged just over 14 points per game and collected an average of 15 rebounds per game, while guiding the Greyhounds to some of their finest seasons in the Southeastern Ohio Athletic League.
Dave and I grew up as pretty good friends. He was a great guy. Dave was a darn good basketball player. He was always a leader. If we were down, he took charge. He did all the things you're supposed to do if you're the premier player on the court. Dave was. I don't ever remember Dave bragging about anything, ever. He has always been very well respected by the community, by his classmates. He was just a stellar fella and still is today. Everything about Dave is true. What you see with Dave is what you get. Just an incredible fella that I'm glad that has been my friend for 75 out of 80 years.
It's exciting to see him get this honor because I think he celebrates everybody else in the world so much, but he never really gets a chance to be celebrated. He kind of is my hero in life. You know, he was a great basketball player. He was a better person to watch and to kind of take after when it comes to what a young man should look like growing into my life. And he's been extremely important to me at every step of my life. You know, it's been a few years since he was on the court, but he still has that work ethic. He had to work for everything he had. He had to get up and just work to be the best basketball player. He focused on defensive fundamentals. He spent so much time just working harder than the next guy. He took that talent that was God-given and he turned it into what was a remarkable career because he worked harder than the next guy. I think that's what made him so great is just this idea that Dave Anderson is going to outwork anybody else. I think he's the epitome of heart. I think when you think about just someone who has the heart in everything that they do, to this day, he still is the same person he was back on that basketball court. He's so determined. He's the most hardworking man I've ever met. He's kind of in the Hall of Fame of our family. I mean, and that's the most important part. He is the core of our family. He's what every person strives to be every day. He did that basketball, that dedication, that hard work, that leadership, that caring, that wanting to make sure that everybody gets the ball and that he picks up where anybody else needs. I mean, it still shines through every day in his life. There is no better man in the world than Dave Anderson. And so it's truly amazing that he gets to celebrate himself for once, and we get to celebrate him and put him on the pedestal he deserves.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present for induction into the Nelsonville-York Athletic Hall of Fame, Mr. Dave Anderson.
I used to run a little fast. Thanks. to be associated with all of these fine people that we've seen tonight. And I've seen the list of the previous inductees into this organization, and wow, there's a lot of great people here. You know, I'm proud to represent the Nelsonville Greyhounds. The consolidation in 1968 was a good thing for our district. It brought together a lot of the smaller schools that allowed Nelsonville-York to compete in a better situation. I was proud to be able to compete in what was known as the Southeastern Ohio Athletic League. What a great league. It was Athens and Logan, Gallup, Pomeroy, Middleport. A lot of great teams. We, of course, were the smallest school in that group. But we competed day in and day out. I had some great teammates. Billy Coonsman, probably one of the toughest, hard-nosed kids I knew in football. Great basketball player. Great individual, went on to West Point. Things beyond. Mike Dexter, what a great player Mike Dexter was with us. 5'10", could dunk the basketball. So I guess my point is, you have great teammates is what makes you a better player. And as a result of that, part of my success was I had good people around me. Playing football was a great time in Nelsonville over on what's now known as Hawley Field. Loved playing football. We weren't very successful, but we competed again because it was a tough league. I remember going to Gallup, what a drive that was in the school bus. But it was a great ride. We always had fun, but I'll never forget playing against a kid by the name of Eddie Rodriguez. He was a fullback at Gallup. We'd never seen kids that big. I had a chance to play safety that game, and here comes Eddie Rodriguez through the line of scrimmage, and me at 175 pounds, going to make a difference in this man. As I watched him roll over me and head to the end zone. But those are great experiences that we get in the world of sports. And I think that's one thing that needs to be recognized today. We need to get more kids into sports. So proud of the women. So proud of these girls who have taken in tonight. I've seen some of the greatest athletes on the floor as women. They do a great job, fascinating to watch. And I've enjoyed that. But again, I'm not here to say only that I appreciate this. I'm so proud to have been a Greyhound. Very proud to have been a Greyhound. And Greg Warren, thank you for remembering me, because a lot of people have forgotten Nelsonville High School and the Greyhounds. There were a lot of great players in that school. And I hope we continue to remember them because they make a difference. Randy Penrod, ran into Randy a few years ago. Did a lot of radio broadcasting for high school sports. Loved that. Ran into Randy at Shenandoah High School as he was there, and I told him he was doing the PA system. I was doing radio. And I saw Randy, and I said, Randy, your dad coached me in high school. Coach Bob Penrod. Great guy, great coach. But coaches make a difference. And one of the best coaches I had in high school was a man by the name of Bob Shesky, and you all know Bob Shesky is what a great man he was. And for the many things that he did, I never knew him to get excited. I never knew him to yell. I never knew him to really demean anybody, but he made his points. And one thing I took from him, which I didn't realize until later, was that Coach Shesky had 5 daughters. I thought that's interesting to be a basketball coach and have 5 daughters. Now, how does that influence anybody? Well, let me tell you something. I have 4 daughters. My twins, I have 2 sets of twins, who are with me tonight. My grandson, Adam King. You may know Adam. He's on Channel 10. He's down to Berry. So proud of him. And my life partner, my wife, Lana. And I'm very appreciative to have been here tonight. So kind. Nate, what a great job you do for this organization with your research and all the things that you do. And again, thanks so much. It's sure been my pleasure to be a Greyhound and my pleasure to be here tonight. Thank you all so much.
Casey Cox is a Nelsonville-York graduate of the class of 2012. In his time as a Buckeye, Casey earned 8 varsity letters, 1 in cross country, 3 in basketball, and 4 in baseball. He goes into our hall tonight for his efforts on the baseball field and basketball court. A victim of the Cox curse, we don't grow up until the year we leave high school. Casey was never the tallest on the court or the biggest on the field, but he made up for it with his work ethic, athleticism, and heart. As a member of the Buckeye basketball squad, Casey would find some playing time as a sophomore on a senior-dominated team. As a junior, he would crack the starting lineup, taking over as the team's point guard. His fast break ability, ball handling skills, and ability to shoot from just about anywhere on the court allowed Casey to be one of, if not the most, versatile athletes on the floor, night in and night out. As a junior, he averaged 12 points a game, but like Jonathan Shintz, another undersized legendary point guard in our hall, his overwhelming value could be found in his ability to see the floor and deliver assists to his teammates with uncanny accuracy. He also, on most nights, would draw the opponent's highest scoring guard as his defensive assignment. At the end of his junior season, he would garner all-league and all-district honors. As a senior, Cox would help lead the Buckeyes to a 13-9 record, including a sectional championship and a deep playoff run, culminating in a trip to the Convocation Center. The do-it-all guard would show up each game and deliver whatever the Buckeyes needed, whether it be defense, assist, scoring, or leadership, helping to turn the tide on the Buckeye basketball fortunes. During his senior season, Cox would average 13 points per game, hitting 29 three-pointers and setting career highs of 31 points and 5 three-pointers against New Lexington. At the end of the year, he would be named first team, All-TVC, All-District, and for the 4th consecutive year, All-Academic TVC. On the baseball field, Casey would earn the starting 9 at shortstop the first game of his freshman year, and he would hold that spot until he graduated, annually leading the Buckeyes in assisted putouts. Defensive stats are fairly kept for high school baseball. Casey would most likely rank at the top, or near the top of our infielders to go through our system, trying to get a ball through the middle or the gap in left field. On the left side of the field was very difficult when Cox was at shortstop. He would become the Buckeyes' leadoff batter as a sophomore and would end his Buckeye career again in that same slot as the igniter of the Buckeye offense. As a junior, he once again led the Buckeyes in assists, finished the year with a .388 batting average and with an on-base percentage of .450. He was named first team All-TVC and garnered all-district honors. During his senior season, Casey spent some time on the mound for the Buckeyes, but not at shortstop, but would again lead the Buckeyes in assists while batting .372 for the leadoff spot. At the end of the season, he was once again All-TVC, All-District, and All-Academic TVC for the 4th time. Also serving as his class valedictorian, something his mother and father never came close to.
I can tell from the early going that
Casey, he liked to have fun, but he was also a very mature student. He knew when he needed to be serious. He knew when he needed to get to work. He brought a sense of maturity to the team. Like I said, he liked to have fun and things like that, but he got down to work when we needed to, and it was really refreshing for me to be able to come in and be able to rely on him to bring a strong work ethic to the team.
And Casey was an awesome kid. You know, he worked extremely hard. He was in the weight room a lot of mornings, even before the football team. He'd be on the court shooting free throws, shooting threes, late at night when everyone else was out of the gym.
There's not a better person than Casey Cox. There's not a better athlete in our class than Casey Cox. He just seemed to be able to, not just good at everything he did, he was great at everything that he did. He was someone that everybody looked up to on the team, no matter what age they were, no matter what grade level they were. If we were underclassmen, they were upperclassmen that looked up to Casey. And a lot of that was because of the person that he is, and it flowed right into the type of athlete that he was.
One thing about Casey is you never saw him get too excited when things were going well, and you never saw him get too far down when things were going poorly for us. Casey was always an even-keel type of player. You could never read his emotions on his face. His body language always stayed positive. He was somebody on the team that everyone could look to for a sense of calmness. When things were going bad, he was always kind of the rock that we had that could lead us into the right direction.
I never once in our entire lives ever saw him flustered. He wouldn't get upset. He wouldn't get too high. He wouldn't get too excited or over-emotional. He was that perfect balance of an athlete, competing always to win, always to get better. And the biggest thing is he might be one of the best teammates that any of us ever had.
Casey was my best point guard from a true fashion of what a point guard is. He was a good athlete, but he also was heady, and he knew how to put himself in the best positions, and therefore he put his team in the best position. He never tried to do too much. I sometimes wish he would have did more. That was kind of his job for us, was to handle the ball and distribute. He would get the ball to the right places at the right time, and would always try to do the right thing for the team.
Casey was somebody that had the most respect from anybody else on that team. There were a lot of different personalities on that team, but everybody seemed to gravitate towards Casey. He really provided a positive aspect, and he was a positive role model for everybody on the team. If I could pick one word to describe Casey Cox,
If I had to describe Casey Cox in one word,
hardworking,
it would be leader.
He always made sure to put in the extra work we needed to, and that's not just as an athlete, but in the classroom as well.
It could be life, it could be in the classroom, he was our valedictorian, it could be on the baseball field, it could be in the basketball court. He was a leader in all aspects of life, and he continues to be. And I think he's going to be remembered just for being a phenomenal athlete who did everything the right way.
It's not always easy to make the right decision in high school, but Casey will be remembered as somebody who you can always rely on, who would always stay out of trouble, who would always make the right decisions, and somebody that would just be there for his team and his teammates every chance that he got. And he really grew throughout his high school career. His baseball IQ was excellent. He really grew into one of the best players I've ever coached.
Congratulations, well-deserved.
I want to tell him this is very well-deserved, and I want to congratulate him, all of his hard work, all of his accomplishments.
Congratulations, man. You deserve this so much, and welcome to the Hall of Fame.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present for induction into the Nelsonville-York Athletic Hall of Fame, Mr. Casey Cox.
Thank everybody for coming out tonight. Like everyone has said, it's truly an honor to be inducted in the Hall of Fame here, and it's just great. I really appreciate my friend Nate Dean and all the work that he's done with this. Since we were little, he's always been obsessed with the history of sports, specifically Nelsonville football. It's great to see his dreams as a young kid come to life here, and Nate, we really appreciate all the work that you put into this. And like I said, what a great honor to be a part of this great group of people. Yeah, so if you don't know, I teach at Nelsonville-York now. I'm a junior and sophomore English teacher, and I'm right by the gym. So I get the great privilege of walking past the Hall of Fame every day and seeing that. And now it's pretty cool to be able to see myself up there. But I want to talk about the Hall of Fame too, on the side of that wall, in terms of what students can see. What this Hall of Fame committee is doing is they're creating a great culture where students see that, they see the family and the Buckeye tradition that's there. So I really appreciate you guys for that, because what you're doing is you're not just honoring past generations, but what you're doing is you are inspiring current generations to have goals to shoot for and have dreams to want to achieve. So again, very grateful to be part of this Buckeye family and for the culture you guys are creating. But what I love about the Hall of Fame and what I picture every time I walk past it is more than just the people that are involved with it, but the stories that go with it, right? Every single person up here tonight has talked about the people that have inspired them and shaped them into who they are today. So when I see the Hall of Fame, I don't just see an individual plaque, but I like to imagine like these branches shooting off of the different people that have made them into who they are and helped them get up there. So with that being said, I want to share some memories I have, some stories I have with some special people that helped me get here tonight. I want to start with a not so obvious person that helped me get here. He's one of my first basketball coaches ever. His name's Matt Yinger. He's probably not going to like me sharing the story. But yeah, like I said, you might know him as the wrestling guru, right? Built a great culture here of wrestling in Nelsonville-York. But little known to a lot of people was he was my basketball coach when I was younger, right? He's my neighbor growing up, so I'd oftentimes look out the window and just see him. He had a little hoop on his garage court out there, and if I ever saw Matt outside, I would just run out there and go play with him. And I would always tell my parents growing up that one day I wanted to grow up to be as tall as Matt Yinger. And Leslie loves telling that story now, and I had to get that on here too. So I got that dream accomplished. But no, really, it's, I would always be thankful for Matt coming out and just letting young me about the age of my son just come out and play basketball with him. So thank you, Matt. But going forward with another wrestler turned basketball player was my dad. I want to talk about my parents and the influence they've had on me. Now that I'm a parent, and you can see my son, you probably heard him back there a little bit, he wants to play sports all the time. I think I was just like him, so I want to start by thanking both mom and dad. Anytime I wanted to play basketball or baseball, whether it was begrudgingly or they were excited, they always did it. And I'm seeing the other side of that coin now, so I'm very thankful for all that you both did for me in terms of catering to my wishes when I was younger. But dad specifically, when people think of you with relation to NY athletics, they probably think of the voice of the Buckeyes, or the man that's up here ordering us around tonight. But when I think of your role in my life as an athlete and what you've done for me, I think typically just about the ordinary memories we have together. Dang it, Dad. Make me proud. As you guys can see, I didn't play football. I played basketball and baseball in high school, but some of my favorite memories are just in the backyard playing football with my dad. We would just just pretend that it was like the biggest game of our lives, and we had 4 downs to get to the touchdown area. We just had to deal with that, and that would always make up the story for what we were going through, and it was just the most fun I had with him. So thank you, Dad, for I think that's huge for myself as an athlete, and to where I got and how I got here tonight was just instilling the sense of imagination in me as a young boy. So that's something I strive to do for my son. Thank you for that. On top of that, like I said, wrestler turned basketball player, and somebody with basketball. When we were younger, a lot of you guys probably know, but Dad was leading the Biddy League basketball program. So my sister and I were always just in the gym at all times, because Dad was always there, and he wanted to build up this program that he wanted his kids to enjoy. I remember the long summer nights with you, coaching my close friends, he's right here, and others in baseball. And just you take the time to build a batting cage in our backyard. Well, you didn't build a batting cage, you had somebody else build it, because we know you're going to do that. But thank you for having someone do that, and also holding me accountable for my summer baseball and basketball workouts. Right? Like every day, he'd ask me, what did you do today? and I'd have to, hold account for that. So thank you, Dad. And the last most important thing is, and everybody will remember this, when I was younger, I'd go in the basement and play basketball all the time. I had a team that I called the Nelsonville Nikes, and I pretended it was me by myself. I was, very, very lonely child. But I would play in the basement all the time and just pretended I would play against people. And lo and behold, I learned that my dad was a lonely child too, and he had a team. I think they were the Nelsonville Wildcats, maybe Ohio Wildcats. We all had our team members and everything, team names, and once I got a bit older and had my own team, Dad brought his team back, and we would bring our team of 5-on-5 in the basement against each other. So, again, Dad, thank you for your imagination and just for loving me and showing me the importance of athletics in my life. Now, continuing on with my mom, she's the true athlete in our family. She's where I learned that it's not called out of bounds, but it's out of balance, is what Mom would say growing up. Took Dad a couple days to figure that out and correct her on that. And she was a great starter for our volleyball varsity team in high school too, so at least that's a story that she told us. We had to look that up and fact check her, but she was telling a little story about that. But truthfully, like I said, Mom wasn't huge on sports, but growing up, she would do anything that we asked with regards to sports. She pitched baseball to me even when I hit it right back to her, and eventually she had to stop pitching to me because she was like, "You're hurting me." So again, that was just something that she loved to do. But Mom, I appreciate it so much. And now that I'm an adult and doing laundry, that is like the most underappreciated thing. So again, thank you for doing it all the time. Moving on to my sister Kelly. Even though you missed my highest scoring basketball game I've ever had, thanks for that, Court. I still have you to thank for a lot of things. Mainly, I'm happy that you and Court ended up together. She missed my game for a date, but now they're married, so at least it's a good excuse. But I probably never showed it like I should have, being a dumb teenage boy, but you inspired me so much when we were younger. Seeing you start as a freshman on the volleyball team, just out of this world for me. Just really looked up to you because of that. And everyone knows you, the newspaper, as the Tomcat Slayer for hitting all those threes in a game. So you just inspired me to work harder in my sports so I could turn into the athlete that I became. So thank you. Ben Roby, you're next because I see you just as a family member. I got so many good things to say about you, and thank you for what you said for me. But you coached me in baseball, basketball, but my most cherished memories with you are the time you took, even when you weren't my coach. It was in high school, but you were not coaching at that point, except for volleyball, but you'd come in, 3 days a week to just work out with me and help me in the weight room. Because, like Dad said, I was a shrimp, I was a twerp, and you helped me grow just a little bit more in high school. So I really appreciate you for that, Ben. And then some of them are here tonight. My other basketball coaches, Billy Williamson, Joe Higgins, and Eric Mitchell. Appreciate the three of you. I grouped you three together because you guys really taught me just the importance of playing loose and playing comfortable and just enjoying who I am on the court. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate still having a friendship with the three of you. And moving on to Coach Klein, I am very thankful to be here tonight because there are a couple times with Coach Klein, mainly where I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get out of this alive, but one of my favorite camps was we went down to Tennessee and we took his minivan, but there was not room for me in a seat. And like we've said multiple times, I was very small, so I had to sit on the floor of this van all the way to Tennessee. But I made it, we had fun, and again, thank you, Coach Klein, for taking us to somewhere like that. But I'm a basketball coach now. I coach JV and an assistant coach here. And I am always kind of, putting myself in my mind up to what Coach Klein did for us in high school. And he's a great model for me to kind of model my coaching career off of. He's just such an inspired coach and an inspiring coach. You gave us so many opportunities, whether it's the Rick Mouse shooting camp or, taking us to Jason Alder camp. Really appreciate all that you did for that. And your love for the game, your knowledge for it is so infectious. And it really spread. To all of us, and it stuck with us. I do want to share one story about my, first entry into a varsity game, but it's one of my favorite stories to tell. But my sophomore year, right, I was about 5'4", very, very small, but Coach Klein had coached me all throughout my life. And we were in a heated game at Meg's, and our point guard at the time he had cussed out one of our coaches, so they ripped him out and they said, "Casey, you're in." And it was a very, very close game. It was my first varsity action really of the year, and ended up scoring, and it stuck in my head about 10 points, and then we won, and it was just one of the best nights I had as a varsity athlete throughout my whole career, honestly. So to reward me, Coach Klein had me start the next game against Athens, which was just a powerhouse. And I think everybody knew physically I was not there yet, but Coach saw what I did, he saw my potential, and he said, "All right, I'm going to reward you for the work that you put in." I ended up getting 3 fouls in like a minute and a half, and then I got pulled from the game. Kind of like I was earlier in the speech, I was like trying not to cry on the bench because I was like, this is embarrassing. But I really appreciate Coach Klein because I guarantee he saw that, he knew the competition we were up against, and he knew just physically I wasn't there yet, but he saw the potential in me, and he wanted me to have that experience. And although it was tough, it helped me immensely my next year. So Coach Klein, thank you for creating a culture here and a leader myself, and thank you for still mentoring me today as a coach. Appreciate you. And last, if you know Wayne Dickin, I saved him for last because I don't want to inflate his ego any more than it already is. So hopefully you're just done listening to this point and you're not hearing me say this about Wayne. But high school baseball season for me, it can be tough with weather and just canceling games and all that stuff, and it's hard to fight through that. But I'd like to have a positive, encouraging coach like Wayne who really understood his players and his athletes and wanted to get to know them and to relate with them on a strong level, and he did that so amazingly. And you can see that with everything he's done after baseball, with volleyball and every other sport he's coached. He cares about his athletes, and I'm a better athlete and a better man today because of Wayne. So thinking back on my career, just to finish this, thinking back on high school sports, I don't really miss the games and the highlights as much when I think back about it. I do miss two things really. I miss the camaraderie of teammates and just that togetherness that we have and the lessons that we learn together. I cherish that, and we all try to recreate that in our jobs and our careers, trying to formulate a team like that so that we can do something, we can make a change. Then the other thing is just, I feel like high school sports and being in Nelsonville-York in general taught me how to mold myself into the person I want to be. A lot of my favorite memories just think back on are the times in summer when I was just in my parents' driveway, just playing basketball and trying to get better at ball handling, trying to get better at shooting and working at batting cage. Those are the memories that stick with me when it's just you and yourself just figuring out how do I get better, how do I improve myself. So I love thinking about that. And one last thing, I am an English teacher, so I'm going to be very stereotypical and with a quote that I want to share with you all. But it's one of my favorite authors, C.S. Lewis. He's talking about friendship in this case, but I think it really applies to all the people that I've talked about tonight who have had a strong impact on me. But he says, in friendship, we think we have chosen our peers. In reality, a few years difference in the date of our births, a few more miles between certain houses. The choice of one university or a sport instead of another, the accident of a topic being raised or not raised at a first meeting, any of these chances might have kept us apart. But for a Christian, there are, strictly speaking, no chances. A secret master of ceremonies has been at work. Christ, who said to the disciples, "You've not chosen me, but I have chosen you," can truly say to every group of Christian friends, "You have not chosen one another, but I have chosen you for one another." I'm blessed to have been born in Nelsonville. I'm blessed to have been born at the time that I was, and to have the friends and the coaches and the parents that I have. I wouldn't be where I am without you all today. So thank you, and I love you all.
Steve Cox and Matt Yeager as your basketball coaches. I don't know how you ever made it that far, buddy. Susan Crawford is a 1994 Nelsonville-York graduate. During her varsity career at NY, she would receive 7 varsity letters, 4 in track, and 3 in basketball. A 3-year varsity starter in basketball at point guard, she was an excellent facilitator and prolific scorer who led the Buckeyes to some of their most successful seasons. In her lone JV season, she even scored 21 of her team's 27 points in a win over the Trimble Tomcats. As a sophomore, Susan led the team to a 13-9 record and a sectional championship, finishing their season as district runner-ups. She would be named All-TVC that season. In her junior season, Susan and the Buckeyes would finish 15-6, and she would be the team's leader in points and assists, scoring a season-high 34 points against rival Trimble that year, a school record at the time. She scored the game-winning basket in overtime against Meigs to secure the Buckeyes' second-place finish in the TVC, the first time the Buckeyes had ever defeated Meigs on their home floor. At the end of the season, Crawford would be named first team All-TVC, second team All-District, and All-State honorable mention. Her senior year would see more of the same, with Susan leading her team to another winning season and cementing herself as one of the best women's basketball players in NY history. At the end of her senior year, Susan once again earned a first team All-TVC, first team All-District, and honorable mention All-State selection. If you've ever been to Ben Wagner Gymnasium before, you've more than likely seen the track record board prominently displayed above one of the gym entrances. If you look for 2 of the longest standing records, look to the 1600 and 3200 meter run. You'll see the name Susan Crawford, the school record set in book over 30 years ago. 5 minutes, 38 seconds in the 1600, 12:44 in the 3200. Records set in 1994, records that remain today. During her track career, Susan won 39 of the 56 events that she was entered in, a remarkable 70% win percentage. People were running second in most races Susan was entered in. One track official, upon asking the girls who was going to win the 1600, saw each and every participant point Susan's way. In her time on the track and field team, Susan would become a 3-time TVC champion in the 1600 meter race, a 3-time TVC champion in the 3200 meter race, and a 2-time TVC champion in the 800 meter race. 8 TVC championships over that 3-year span. She would become a 4-time regional qualifier in the 1600 meter and a 2-time regional qualifier in the 3200 meter. And as stated before, would go on to break and still hold the school record for her times in the 1600 and 3200 meter races.
Susan and I were best friends all through elementary school and spent a lot of time with her at her house, her at my house, and she was kind of like a sister. Both of us were only children, so we actually spent a whole lot of time together. She was always super focused. I would always see her with her warm-up. She was very diligent in making sure she was ready to go for her races. She had the drive to do as best that she could, and she put the time and the effort in, not just in her warm-ups, but also in practice. Our first experience was playing 7th grade basketball together, and all the girls on the team, none of us had any clue about basketball because we've never played. But Susan had played with the boys, so she knew a little bit more than what we did, so we would bounce off of her. Susan was the shortest girl on the team, but she was also the best girl on the team. She was super intelligent. She was so athletic. She could do anything she put her mind to. She was always ready to play. She stepped out on that floor, and if she was nervous, she was never famous. She really wanted to make her mark, if you will, as all of us did. So she put the time, the effort, and everything in to do her very best. She did a lot with her dad, and her dad trained her from early on. She truly was her biggest cheerleader also. He was standing along that sideline and he was popping her and pushing her to go, and he was very proud of her. I always admired the fact that she wasn't afraid to try a new race, but she wasn't afraid of the challenge, and when a challenger rose in front of her, she took it head on. She was extremely dedicated to whatever she did, whether it be her academics or sports, whatever it was that she was doing, she seemed completely dedicated to it. She was confident in herself, confident in her ability, but at the same time she knew that it took work to be able to be as good as what she was. She was a leader. We had a handful of other girls that were also in the distance field, but she was a leader for them. She stepped on that track, her mind was running, and she ran fiercely and she ran fast. She was someone who you could talk to. She was approachable. She was just a solid person, in all honesty. She just was someone that if something had to be done and you asked her to do it, it was going to be done. A lot of people who are not good at everything that they do, you know, they like that attention, and she's not like that at all. Being comfortable and confident in who she was and what she did allowed her to be able to be so focused on, you know, breaking those records, running as fast as she did and as long as she did, and just being able to be successful. She's definitely deserving of this, and it's well earned. Susan, congratulations. If anyone out of our class deserves it, it would be you. And just remember, you impacted a lot of people's lives, including mine. I'm a better person because of you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present for induction into the Nelsonville-York Athletic Hall of Fame, Mrs. Susan Crawford.
Hairstyles I had. Jeez. Alright. So I want to thank my coach Ron Connors that I had for almost all of my basketball career through middle school and high school. I don't know what he saw in me, but he picked me up and took me on his AAU summer team, and it was the first time I had any knowledge that there was, I got to keep playing this out of season, so that was great for me to get to play through the summer. And wonderful people. We got to go to nationals in Florida. It was just a really good time. Then we go on to, I got to thank my mom for taping all those games so that I could go home and have my dad watch the videos with me and tell me everything I did wrong so that I could fix it for the next game. That helped me get better. For track, I had Bill Woodson my freshman year. And I don't know what he saw in me, but he said, I think you should try running a mile. So I said, okay. And off it went. And then it was, well, now you got to do the 2 mile. Well, now you got to do the 800. So now I'm running all this distance. I mean, I want to say that it was fun, but no. I never got the runner's high that I hear people talk about, I hear my daughter talk about. I got the, oh, I'm done, give me my trophy. That was, I guess, my high for it. My dad found a coach named Johnny Jackson, who still is a coach in Columbus, and he then took me on to be on his AAU track team for a couple summers, and that was where I really learned the stuff that's carried me on to be an adult and be successful in a career and try to pass on to my very stubborn teenagers. That's fun. But perseverance, that just keep going, even when you don't want to, even when you're not getting a trophy anymore, keep going. I got to go to California and Louisiana to run for track with this AAU team. It taught me intrinsic motivation, and that is something that is so hard, I think, as being a teacher, trying to teach kids nowadays for them to get that, and I really felt like I got that through track. And then just determination. They said I was the smallest one, so everybody said I couldn't do it. In my head, I was always on, I'll show you. So I just tried to do it the best I could. I want to thank the committee for seeing something in me that made you think that I deserve this. I'm very honored to have that. When you talked about my records that I still hold, I was very proud of those. And then my daughter decided to run the mile and the 2 mile this past spring for her first time ever in high school as a sophomore, and just crushed my records. So I'm really glad she doesn't go to school here so they can get there. I don't know why. I just want to thank the committee, and it's really cool to be here, and I'm very honored.
Ed Terwilliger is a graduate from my class, the class of 1974. During his time as a Buckeye, Ed garnered 12 varsity letters, competing in wrestling, basketball, track and field, where as a starting quarterback, he would become a member of the Buckeyes' first TBC championship squad and become recognized as a member of the 1970s All-Decade team. While his athletic career is quite worthy of a Hall of Fame nod, he goes into our Hall of Fame tonight in a new category, that of distinguished alumni, an NY graduate who is recognized for their achievements in the field of athletics, whether in coaching, administration, or mentoring outside our school system. After graduation from high school in Ohio University, Ed would go on to become a revered and highly successful football coach in the state of Ohio, making stops as an assistant at Westlake High School, Groveport High School, and yes, even Trimble High School. In 1989, he landed the head coaching position at Olentangy High School and would bring that program to state prominence in his 24 years at the helm. During his time with the Braves, his team qualified for the state playoffs 8 times, with a regional final appearance in 1999. Ed was named Division II Central Ohio Coach of the Year 3 times, with D1 and D3 Coach of the Year honors coming his way 1 time each. He mentored over 100 high school athletes that went on to have college or NFL success. Familiar names like Zach Carrot, who played for the Toledo Rockets, and in the NFL for the Minnesota Vikings. Kenny Ananicky, a defensive end for Duke University and the Denver Broncos, along with Josh Perry, an Ohio State and San Diego Chargers linebacker. In 2015, Terwilliger would join Coach Urban Meyer's staff at The Ohio State University as the Director of High School Relations. He holds the same spot on Coach Ryan Day's staff to this day, helping to bring on an amazing 8 #1 recruiting classes in the last 10 years, numerous Big Ten titles, and of course, last year's national championship. All of this while not coming up with any tickets for his buddy Steve Cox. Coach Terwilliger had an impact on many young lives during his time as a coach and teacher in our Ohio school systems. And those whose lives he touched hold him in high regard to this day, as do I. He was more than a coach during his time at Olentangy, as his numerous Teacher of the Year awards would prove, and many of his former students would attest to that same thought. An officer of the Ohio High School Coaches Association for 16 years, he was elected their president in 2004. In 2018, Ed was inducted into the Central Ohio Coaches Hall of Fame, and earlier this year was inducted into the Ohio High School Football Coaches Hall of Fame, an honor shared with his former NY head coach, Dave Boston Sr. Not bad, for as he calls himself, just a guy from Carbon Hill. The tradition, pride, and culture learned and developed at Nelsonville-York High School from men like Coach Boston and Coach Tom McLaughlin stayed with him everywhere he went. And today, Ed Terwilliger remains a proud Nelsonville-York Buckeye.
first time I ever knew of him was probably in 5th grade, right about the time Nelsonville-York were consolidating, and he was from York and I was from Nelsonville. But once we get into junior high, we were all thrown together, and he's been a very, very dear friend of mine since that time.
I mean, when we first started high school, and we all played football together, wrestled together, and we just had a great relationship. I hit it off with him real well, and we still do today. Ed was an incredible cornerback. For the cornerback, he was a good runner. He was great. He was all back in the 70s. He was just a great athlete in every respect, but you could see he wanted to be a coach early on in his career.
He is proud of where he's come from. He's a kid coming out of Carbon Hill.
You know, Ed always calls himself a dirtball from Carbon Hill. He's nothing close to a dirtball. He's one of those guys that just come out of the left field and just smack on the rear end. He thought he learned on the job on the line. I think at that time we were starting to see Ed was a little bit different, not just an athlete, but he was also kind of a coach. Whenever we were athletes and our classmates and teammates, we recognized that Ed probably had a higher calling.
From Nelsonville-York, what he got was, whether it be football or wrestling, go be fundamentally sound as a coach. If you care about your kids, they'll care about you, and they'll go do great things for you.
He just always hung around the coaches. He's sitting there getting vodka all the time. Coach Lawson and Coach McGoffin, they were his mentors. He just wanted to hear how the coaches perform and the decisions they make. He wanted to learn about coaching. He wanted to learn the principles and the strategy. And often he now mirrors those type of personalities. That's what's made Ed so great, become a great coach.
Obviously, he knew football, and he was at some good programs before he got to Tansy, so he had a pretty good background. And he went to coach Old Tansy. It was a coaching graveyard, and he turned it around and made it into one of Central Ohio's top programs.
He turned around on programs there, especially the football program, from a one-to-win program to a championship team. But he also focused on kids that were at risk.
I guarantee you that one of the things that he took with him when he went to Old Tansy was your players absolutely have to know that you care about them. And if they know and they believe as a coach you care about them, they will walk through brick walls for you. You'll get the most out of them. If I had to describe him in one word, that's winner. He's a winner. He's won everywhere he's been. As early as I knew him, Ed hated to lose. When you hate to lose, you figure out ways to win and you figure out ways to be successful.
He's just an outstanding individual.
Ed Terwilliger has been a successful high school athlete. He's been a very successful coach. He's got accolades galore. Above all of it, for me, he's been just about the best friend I've had for going on 60 years now.
As for me and my classmates, and I reached out to several of them, we just love Ed Terwilliger. The guy just does everything great in every respect. We want to congratulate him on a great career. He's just been an incredible friend. He's a great American, and he's a Nelsonville treasure. And he's well deserving, I think, of another Hall of Fame.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present for induction into the Nelsonville-York Athletic Hall of Fame, Mr. Ed Terwilliger.
Hey, first of all, I like to have fun too, okay? It's not that serious. Without doubt, you saw my wife Debbie is here. All the moves that, we weren't married when I was at Trimble. When we went to Westlake, the athletic director told me the second year I was there, my job would be much more secure if I got married. So, you gotta laugh about that, come on. And so we decided it was probably time to get married. And then obviously at Crawford and at Old Tansy and now at Ohio State. Everything that I've done or accomplished has always been a group. Did you notice in the one picture the little short guy standing there with three big tall guys around him? Those are what NFL players look like. And when they play for you, you're a lot better coach. So that's something that I really Appreciate it. You guys hear me okay? I'm not very good at standing behind a mic, all right? The reality of it is I'm just a guy from Carbon Hill who had great mentors, great teachers, and helped me get to some place that I never ever thought I would get. But with Coach McLaughlin and his wife, Vicki, who's a tremendous coach's wife, you know, everybody knows he was our defensive coordinator the whole time Coach Boston was here, and Coach Boston was instrumental. It's an unbelievable honor for him to go into the Hall of Fame, and I was just very fortunate to have that. I had no idea about going to college. They helped me understand what I had to do. One real quick thing about that, you know, back obviously before the internet and all that stuff, you know, when you went to put an application in, I literally came here when I graduated, all right, and I drove up from Athens, and you know, then you had to get an application and fill out. So I kind of was going around one day when I was finished student teaching. So I go in the office here, and Mrs. Downhour was the assistant principal, Chesky was the principal, right? And she's like, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, Miss Downhour," I said, "I can have an application." She goes, "What for?" And I said, "For a teacher." She goes, "Ed, didn't we tell you that when you left here you had to go to college to be a teacher?" And then she sat down in a chair when she found out I was actually graduating from college. So that was actually one of my great things I accomplished. I appreciate everyone. Steve, Dean, you guys put this, how they come up with all this information up there, I don't know. It's just, I guess you can find it. But I'm a very fortunate person. I have great kids. They're healthy. They're educated. And everything that I have tried to do as being a head of the football coach, the classroom, now at Ohio State, is make sure you take care of the little things, and all the little things will take care of the big things. All right? Make sure you give people the time of day, because you never know who you're going to run into down the road that you're going to need help from, or, you know, something that's going to be of that matter. Because my coaches and teachers helped me get into school, one of the things that I said, if you ever want to get rid of me because I don't win enough games, I understand that, not a big deal. But don't ever tell me I didn't care about the kid, because my job was to open doors for them. Whether they would go through those doors that were opened is one thing. All right, I'm proud of the fact that I was that carload from Carbon Hill, that every year there would be one carload that would come in from Carbon Hill, at least as long as I grew up. And then eventually we came, you know, Buckeyes, and I'm still a Buckeye. It's kind of nice. I have something that, you know, in closing real quick, all of us on staff received a national championship football, all right, from the championship. And ironically, Coach Day signed it for me tonight to present here so that it can be in the trophy case. So it says, "Go Bucks." All right. And one story, all right, because Steve Cox is going to, since he threw out the no ticket thing, all right, which I get everywhere. You know, he was a 98-pound wrestler as a senior. You guys know that. All right, and we both wrestled together, so we know each other. So we were in the back when wrestling, you couldn't recertify. You had to certify first match, and whatever you certified at, that's what you're going to wrestle the rest of the year. So Steve, being, you know, I'm going to 98. The only reason he didn't go to state, all right, was because the week of districts, after he starved himself all year to be a 98-pounder, when he's trying to get dressed on Monday to go to school that week, he reaches up into his top of his closet, all right, tries to pull something out, and his bowling ball, of all things, his bowling ball falls down and breaks his foot. All right. On Thursday, the 98-pounder weighed 127 pounds. Okay? So the only reason he never went to state was because of that damn bowling ball. Right? And he wasn't even very good at bowling. Right? So anyway, you guys have a great night. It's an honor and privilege. I love this place. It's always been part of my heart. Every time I come down, and my mom, if you've been around a while, my mom was Charlotte Brady. She passed, and she would love this, and she would have been back there cooking because that's what she does. Thank you. Have a great night.
Get a chance to see Ed after the ceremony tonight, having show you that national championship ring he's got in his pocket right there. 20 pounds, I think. When we first began our hall back in 2017, one of our goals was to include some of the positions on the field or court that were maybe less recognized than most. That unsung point guard, or that steady setter, or that tough, determined lineman, paving the way for those legendary Buckeye tailbacks. We honor one of those gentlemen in our contributor category tonight, who, like his brother that we talked about earlier, made his mark athletically at Nelsonville-York High School, but contributed so much more to our school since its high school days. The lineman on some of Coach Dave Boston Sr.'s best team, Jim Edwards, like his father before him, has never stopped giving back to the students of Nelsonville-York High School. Our football field, football stands, press box, track, honor wall, concession stand, and many other facilities around our school bear witness to his hard work and building expertise. Many of our athletes, past and present, owe much of their success to the superior training facilities at his own home, opened up to each and every NY athlete without charge. We talk about tradition at Nelsonville-York. It's not just about the wins and the banners, it's about the people behind the scenes. The ones who show up early, stay late, and give their time, their resources, and their hearts to make sure our student athletes have the very best. Jim Edwards is that person. With tonight's induction, we now count 6 members of the Joe and Betty Edwards family in our Hall of Fame, by far the most of any family in our school system, with more to come, I suspect, in the future.
I've known Jim my whole life. My family has known him. I grew up alongside his kids, nieces, and nephews, and my brothers, and my sister did too. He's always worn a lot of hats, but the role that stands out most to me is his commitment as an advocate for the community. Those resources that weren't available anywhere in southeastern Ohio at the time. I remember running on his treadmill, the high-speed treadmill, all the time. And, you know, those are things that professional athletes were doing at the time. Much of my success that I've had in my career came from opportunities that he kind of made possible. Spending those countless hours up at his house training, where, you know, he had the gym. I would call it Jim's Gym. You know, where I developed a lot of that competitive drive and determination that, I don't know, it just kind of helped shape who I am today. Those experiences were, you know, literally priceless for us kids. He didn't just offer us that equipment. He and his wife, Jolinda, you know, opened their home. You know, what stands out a lot to me with Jim is just how he kind of carried that legacy forward of his father that they've established, him and Betty, giving back to the community, you know, in ways that continue to inspire. That work family as a whole, you know, has been a huge part of my life. That their generosity and dedication has left a lasting mark on, you know, how I go about my everyday life. Being able to have those resources, I didn't quite see it yet that I was able to do some of the things, you know, like play college basketball and travel for basketball and, you know, go to different parts of the country. And I know a lot of that came from the hard work and the hours that I put in, you know, his gym. And I wouldn't have had unless he provided that resource. And it's kind of full circle now. You know, I'm training his grandkids that are in high school now. I'm actually, you know, coaching. I've trained a couple of the kids locally here, and they've had a lot of success. You know, we went up there and trained really hard also. So it's kind of cool to see it stay on full circle with it, and how people have made that impact through, you other generations. Once he's able to do certain things, we will bring along others who can. So I think that commitment and just being a helping hand is that community role and being a community leader. This will continue to be something that will ripple through our community. I have that influence from him and helping me to have that resource, like I said, to see what you could do. You know, things were different back then too. We didn't have the recruiting like we did now. And so to have that exposure and be able to go do those things was something that I just look at that as a priceless, because we didn't have to, invest in that. It's athletic Hall of Fame, and he's been a big part of every single person, that is around my age especially, is actually already in that Hall of Fame. So I think that he's more than deserving. So the efforts, just in general, have been like a huge part of my life. Jim wasn't just a mentor to him, he was a driving force for a lot of us kids to see what we were capable of.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present for induction into the Nelsonville-York Athletic Hall of Fame, Mr. Jim Edwards. Accepting the award from Jim tonight, Mrs. Courtney Vogt.
Hi, thank you. I am here to accept this. He called me recently to say he couldn't be here, but if I would show up tonight to accept this award. He is truly honored, and he gave me a list of things he wanted me to talk about tonight, and I took that list and made it sound a little prettier. If you know him, you'll appreciate that. First and foremost, I put this in his from his perspective. First and foremost, I want to offer my sincere apologies for not being able to be with you tonight in person. I wish I could be there to celebrate this moment with you. Being inducted into the Nelsonville-York Athletic Hall of Fame is a tremendous honor. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I was an average athlete at best. This recognition isn't because of stats or trophies or highlight reels. I know I'm standing here, or rather, being honored tonight, not because of what I did on the field, but because of my lifelong love for the Nelsonville-York Buckeyes. That love runs deep. It comes from people, real people, who shaped me and inspired me. Two of those people are Clint Hoskins and Boo Evans. Incredible athletes, yes, but more importantly, incredible human beings. We lost them far too soon on the football field. Their passion, their sacrifice, and their impact left an impression on me that I will carry with me for the rest of my life. Coach Dave Boston Sr. is another name I hold close to my heart. He taught me more than just X's and O's. He taught me what it means to be a Buckeye, to lead with integrity, to stand tall in the face of adversity, and to strive for greatness, even when the road is steep. Those are lessons that have followed me off the field and into every part of my life. Most importantly, I want to honor my dad tonight. He meant everything to me. He lived his life giving back to this community and to the Buckeye family. His example taught me that being part of this program isn't just about the games. It's about service, loyalty, and love. I think we can all agree on that. If I've given anything back over the years, it's because my dad showed me how. And now I get to pass that legacy on to the next generation. Watching my grandkids wear a Buckeye uniform, and even my two that are Bulldogs, and carry on this tradition is truly one of the greatest joys of my life. My hope for them and all young Buckeyes is that they understand what it means to be part of this community. That it's not just about playing the game, it's about supporting each other, lifting each other up, and giving back any chance you can. To be recognized by the Nelsonville-York Athletic Hall of Fame means the world to me, not because of what I've done, but because of what this place has meant to me. Thank you for this incredible honor. I am forever proud to be a Buckeye. Thank you.
Our next next inductee is an NY graduate of the class of 1977. In his time as a Buckeye athlete, he collected 9 varsity letters, 2 in basketball, 3 in football, and 4 in baseball. If you've ever seen the movie The Greatest Showman about the life of P.T. Barnum, I present to you Nelsonville-York's Greatest Showman, Randy Penrod. An animated, compassionate athlete on the field and court, he was beloved by the Buckeye faithful. His opponents, maybe not so much. Randy would crack the starting lineup in baseball as a freshman and would man first base for the next 4 years, catching most anything thrown his way. He batted leadoff for the Buckeyes, and like any good leadoff hitter, would go to any length to get on base and get the offense moving, whether by hit, walk, or hit by pitch. And I saw him take quite a few ones in the ribs a few times over his career. I'm not sure if that was bad pitching or that opponents expressing their love for him. One way or another, Randy would find a way to first base. He would finish his career with a .388 batting average and end his junior and senior seasons with consecutive first-team All-TBC selections. Penrod was a starter for 2 seasons on the basketball squad, playing on some very successful Buckeye teams. Not caught up on the handle of the scoring load for the Buckeyes, Randy was normally at the top of the Buckeyes' rebounding or assist stats and always assigned the opponent's best player, more often than not, completely locking them down. Tenacious and animated on the court, all in attendance could see the pure joy he got from the competition. In fact, many a referee were surprised by a quick pat on the butt from the man they just called a foul on. He earned the nickname the Rubber Band Man for some of the hits he took on the court and on the field. Again, his opponents didn't mind getting a good clean shot at him, usually collapsing into a heap of tangled arms and legs and then snapping right back up again to continue the fray. His tenacity on defense, overall presence, and leadership on and off the court helped lead the Buckeyes to a sectional championship and district runner-up finish his senior year. A career educator like his father before him, he would come back to lead the Buckeye basketball squad as their head coach in the late 80s and early 90s. On the football field, Randy left an indelible mark as a receiver for the Buckeyes. Probably the first pass catcher in Coach Boston Sr.'s tenure that was allowed to catch the ball more than he blocked, although that was still required of him. He formed one of the premier quarterback-receiver duos in the area, along with his quarterback, Doug Durkin. Coach Boston will go on record at an all-league meeting telling his fellow coaches, "Randy is the best receiver I have ever coached. I have seen very few young men with the hands Randy has. He was the captain on all of our special teams. He returned all kickoffs and punts for us and played defensive halfback as well. Randy has a great desire, and pound for pound is the toughest man on our team." High praise from one of the most revered coaches in Southeast Ohio. Penrod would finish his career with records for the most receptions in a game, receptions in a season, receptions in a career, receiving yards in a season, and receiving yards in a year. All in an offense heavily geared toward the run. He remains in the top 10 in many Buckeye receiving categories to this day. At the end of his senior season, Randy was selected first team All-TBC, first team All-District, and special mention All-State. In 2020, Randy was also selected to the 1970s Nelsonville-York High School All-Decade football team as a first-team receiver and second-team safety.
Randy had the best set of hands that anybody that I've ever seen and seen since at Nelsonville-York. He could catch a football, he could catch a baseball. He was a guy that never got tired of running patterns and working and having guys guard him. As a senior in high school, I think Randy caught 33 passes out of the 60 that we completed. It wasn't any secret when we were throwing that we were going to target Randy. We probably drew into double coverage a lot with Randy, but it didn't make any difference. He was so precise on the patterns, and he and I had a lot of timing down that he was an excellent wide receiver. And Randy was always undersized, but he was really tough, had a real high pain tolerance. Randy never left the field. We were low numbers, we only had 30 kids. Randy was out there on everything. He was the safety, he was the kick return man, he was the punt return man, the tight end and wide receiver. He held on the kick, so he never left the field. He was our special teams captain, totally committed to the program. I think if you look at the flow and Coach Dawson in our all-week program, they'll stay in there and tell you, Randy was the toughest pound-for-pound guy that I had coached. He's a tough guy through and through. He was committed to the program, and, you know, I'm proud that I was a part of his career and a great, great feeling about being a teammate.
As far as Randy goes, he was a great influence on my life. I started my coaching career with Randy here at Nelsonville-York, and that's really what made me want to get into coaching. Number one, because of his enthusiasm for everything that he did. Randy has a great enthusiasm and passion for life and anything that he wants to do. That's one thing that I learned from him, and it has had the utmost effect on my life going forward, from a person that met him when I was 19 years old till now. As far as coaching goes, he probably has the fullest effect on my coaching career.
Randy was a great basketball player as far as especially his defensive skills. He was the guy that always drew the toughest guy to guard. You didn't want him guarding you if you were on the other team, because he was going to harass you. He was going to try to get in your head. And he did it and attacked things in a lot of different ways. A smart player out there, he was able to make up for maybe some of the things that he didn't have. But the things he did have, he did them very well. When you're a Buckeye, you're committed to the program, and when Randy was in a season, he was committed to that sport. I think that everybody would say, wow, you know, if I were looking at my son, or how I would like somebody to be committed to that, our teammates would all say, yeah, I'd like him to be like Randy Penrod. Randy, I think you're totally deserving of this honor. I think our class and our team is very, very proud of your accomplishments, and you're totally deserving, buddy. Enjoy it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present for induction into the Nelsonville-York Athletic Hall of Fame, Mr. Randy Penrod.
Thank you, Steve. You know, everybody's thanked this organization, rightfully so. I'm just touched. People, so many great people from Nelsonville. I mean, not Nelsonville, that's what we call it, I guess, sometimes. But it's Steve, you know, when everybody came together here, what became was a tradition that I've taught in 4 other districts. I coached for 30 years. Nobody has the love for their community that this community has. And this is examples right here, and you folks. Again, I had a big speech planned. I was going to go for like 3 hours, and Mike Bishop told me, you know, he said, no, Jay Klein and Chad Savage have already done that. So I decided not to go for 3 hours. I'm going to go for 3 minutes, but I really want to highlight a few people. The bad thing is when I'm speaking, I feel for the 2 guys that are coming up, because everybody's covered it. You know what I mean? Coach McLaughlin, Coach Boston, Coach Grandy hasn't been mentioned. You know, you guys, I'd say you guys, but you know, we were so fortunate to have those types of people. Mr. Yeager with his program. I mean, it's impossible to see that anymore. People are in, they're out, they're not staying. You know, it's just not there. But you know, I just want to touch on a few people here. First of all, I want to thank my family for coming tonight. My wife, I don't know how many, a lot of years. And, you know, she's been so supportive of me in my career. Zed's, you know, talked earlier about his wife. You know, it's just a beautiful thing. We have 2 fine children. My son Brooks is here tonight. Also, my daughter Macy and her wife Libby and their child, who I'm so proud to be a grandpa. I've had the hair since I was 30. Finally got me a little girl. Well, anyway, that's beautiful, and thank you guys for coming. My brother Rick and my sister-in-law Tina are here as well. And it's a family thing. And family grows, and it grows, and it becomes a community. And what the community did here is beautiful. I want to thank the Klotz family, the Hillis family, the Hillary family, the Standall family, the Johnson family. We terrorized the east end of Nelsonville for 5, 6, 8 years. I mean, we tore down their fences. We broke their windows. And you know what? They didn't care. You don't know how they cared. They sure didn't do anything to stop us from that because they saw the beauty of what was happening there. You know, that's important to a community as well. I want to begin by, I wanted to talk a lot about the coaches, but they've already been talked about. I mean, what do you say about those guys? Invaluable people, and very grateful to have been touched by all of those folks. Eddie had mentioned coaching block. No, and I'm not telling any secrets here, but I was just enthralled and amazed, and I continued into my career. I remember him sitting in that office of his, and he had that big old shoe in, a big old spitter there, by God, and that's the way he did her, and that's the way I did her. And I told many people, if it was good enough for my coach in McLaughlin, it's good enough for me. And I never got fired. How? I don't know. They must have known it. But to go away from those coaches, and there were so many pictures. John Abdella, he was my freshman coach. Just so many great guys that coached here. But I want to go back to where it really starts, and I also was fortunate enough to do this. I coached a lot of Little League, I coached a lot of biddy, basketball, I coached a lot of those types of sports. I was never available during football season. And in those seasons, I coached my kids and their buddies. And boy, was that a treat. And I want to thank those people who coached me, Gil Boyd, Jim Pancake, Hope Woodson, Chatty Woodson. Those guys were under the radar. Those are great people for our community here in Nelsonville. I also want to talk about, the fact that in high school we had just 2 head coaches. And that's hard to believe. I mean, I played for Bert Graney in football, basketball. He coached me in junior high football, in baseball, Virgil in baseball. And then Coach Boston was just like an institution. So, those were important things there. Seeing Ed earlier, that class of his was a tremendous class. That would be 1974. I was a freshman. And I know this still occurs. But what I was with the gods. I had been taken to heaven, and I was able to play with some of the greatest people. That class was unreal. And they taught me a lot. They taught me humility. I think Bob Chesky let me out of the locker one morning at about 11, and I was real proud to get out of that locker. And it wasn't those seniors that did that. No, they did not do that. But again, those guys are important, and all their names have been mentioned time and time again. Dave Pritchett spoke about Ed, Kim Rosser, that's a man on this right there. What a great guy. What a hitter. Greg Smathers. Kurt Gale, Bill Woodson. This is one class of Nelsonville-York Buckeyes in water class. I can't believe they weren't state champions because to me they were everything. I graduated in '77. I played with the Sullivan boys, Mark and Brian. I played with Tim DeLong, Dave Safranco, Joe Martinez, Dave Schultz, Scott Smathers, Jerry Isles, just guys who were, critical to me. That's why I'm here. Somebody said I was very deserving. Not really. These guys are the deserving folks. I just got to play with them. Fortunate enough to pick up, a catch here or a basket there. So, those were important things. Doug Durst said some great things about me, and I'd say the same things about Doug Durst. A lot of people talk about hard work. Nobody worked any harder at sports than Doug did. I mean, that's all we did. We threw football. The Hillis family, that we used their hedges as a comeback that was the end of the route. You know, I either caught it before I hit the hedges and it was a good catch, or I was in the hedges and it was wide. So, you know, that was a pretty good indication that Doug could throw the football, and we did it our whole lives. Again, I want to thank the committee. I want to thank, one thing I forgot to thank were the people at the park. Somebody mentioned going over the park earlier, running back there. And you know, that was a critical place. I remember Greg Waring. I remember Freddie Kleingrau. I remember Teddy Monk. I remember just Bill Woods. I remember all those guys, and what we did was just play basketball there. Go kick the football, go catch the football. And I hope that's still going on here at Nelsonville-York. And God bless you all for coming. And thank everybody here. This is a great honor for me. Thank you very much.
Our next inductee is a graduate of the class of 1997. During his time as a Buckeye, Eric Mitchell would earn 5 varsity letters, 2 in football and 3 in basketball, and was a key member of the last Buckeye squad to deliver a TVC title in boys basketball. A 6'5" receiver with leaping ability and speed, defending Mitchell was indeed a tall task for any defender lined up against him. He was the first Buckeye to record a 500-yard receiving season, and he etched his name in many other receiving categories during his football days. By the end of his senior year, Eric would hold the record for most receiving touchdowns in a game, hauling in 4 against Wellston in 1996, and most receiving yards in a season with 535. He would finish his career with the second most receiving yards in a game, the second most receptions in a game, and second most receptions in a season. His 79-yard TD reception against Wellston is 3rd in Buckeye history, and he is 4th in the Buckeye record books in receiving TDs in a single season. His name remains prominent in the top 10 of most Nelsonville-York receiving records. Mitchell was named First Team All-TBC, First Team All-District, and Honorable Mention All-State to end his football career, and in 2020 was named to the 1990s Nelsonville-York Football All-Decade Team as a first-team receiver. On the basketball court, Eric Mitchell was a vital cog on the 1997 team that would win the Buckeyes' first TVC title since 1983, and their last one to this very day. A first-team All-TVC member as a junior, the versatile player could at times be running the Buckeye offense as probably the tallest point guard we've ever had, manning the wing as a sharp-shooting guard, or working in the post if need be. His 1996-1997 team is still considered one of the finest in our school's history. Ranked in the state top 10 at various times, during that season they would go into Alexander Alley ranked 7th to face the 3rd-ranked Spartans. Mitchell would tally 30 points in the contest, and the victory would help propel the Buckeyes toward that TVC crown. The 1996-1997 season ended with a 17-5 record, with Eric Mitchell averaging over 16 points per game, including that 30-point performance in the Buckeyes' biggest game of the season. At the end of the year, he would be named First Team All-TVC and All-District to go along with the title of TVC champion.
Number one, he played on one of the best basketball teams we ever had here. So he's going to be remembered as an essential part of that team. Without him, we don't have that season that we had. I had the honor of coaching him for his whole high school career. So he came in as a freshman, skinny little freshman, and really developed into a nice varsity player for us over the years. He was a real laid-back guy when it came to pregame and preparation, but when it came to playing, it was super competitive, always played hard, got after it for us. Eric was such a difficult player to defend in high school because he was a 6'5" guard that had point guard skills. a lot of people didn't know how to guard him. You couldn't put a big on him, you couldn't put a small on him, and he caused a lot of matchup issues for the other team. I think of that team, and I think that he was kind of like the player that pushed us over the top between his junior and senior year, and he really made a lot of growth. He basically had just as good a season as any other player on that team, and that's considering what his teammates were like, which they were very good. He really, really had a great senior year for us in big situations where he would put up maybe 30 points, or he might have 10 assists, or he may have 15 rebounds in the next game. He really could do it all. Handle the ball, shoot the ball, defend because he was so long and tall because of his size and so forth. Like I said, he gave problems on the football field, on a basketball court, and I just think he was very athletic and very dynamic as a player, either in football or basketball.
Eric was an outstanding receiver for us. Had great hands, and his height really helped in that area. His height really was a tremendous advantage for him over defenders. His senior year, he had a great year at that time. He set a record for most catches in one season. He also took defense for us his senior year. Took defensive end and did an outstanding job. He was a good leader. He had a great mind for sports in general. You know, he's one of those kids that you could see a lot of coach in it. You could see that down the line he'd make a good coach. So he just had a mind for the game. Tremendous competitor. He didn't want to lose.
I think that he had his senior year of 96 and 97 was one of the best years that I had ever seen a player have. He did a lot of things on the football field that really contributed to us having really good seasons. Eric has a great personality. He could talk with the best of them, and always had a good time when I was with Eric.
Thank you, Coach. And I have a lot of fond memories about him playing football for us.
This is a well-deserved honor for him to go into our Hall of Fame. His legacy for me is that he was one of the best athletes that I coached at Nelsonville-York.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present for induction into the Nelsonville-York Athletic Hall of Fame, Mr. Eric Mitchell.
This is great. I'm not a great public speaker, and so you just bow your head for silent prayer and get out of here. Just kidding. Just a complete honor. I want to thank the committee for what they do. A lot of these guys I didn't know about ahead of me. I wouldn't know about it if it wasn't for Nick doing this. So I think it's great in that aspect of things. I want to thank my family for their unwavering support. And I know this moment's about me, but it's really about my teammates. You know, your name goes to people around you, and that's kind of what made me somewhat successful with those guys. And that's kind of what drove me. I didn't want to let my teammates, coaches, or family down, and so that was able to allow me to have the success that I had. I want to thank Ms. Stepmom, Mary Mitchell, who's no longer with us. She took me in third grade, and I moved to Murray City, and just treated me like one of her own. Really fortunate to have her in my life. My older brother that passed, Chad, he wrote to me that I really think about a lot every day. So really miss him.
so many memories here at Nelsonville-York. Coach John, all the basketball that we played, and that he would take that brown van of his, and we would drive everywhere to play summer league, summer ball. We were always playing basketball. That was my first love, basketball. Played a lot in Murray City because there wasn't a whole lot else to do. Until recently, I thought I was one of the top couple athletes to come out of Murray City until Steve broke out a couple Major League World Series winners. So there's that. Football, just for me, I probably didn't work as hard as I should have. Didn't see the weight room a lot. Coach Meade would always have something to say about that. I do have a quick story about football, though. When people would know the scout team was, you're on the younger team, didn't make the varsity, so you were running plays for the varsity team. And some of those early 90s teams that come through Nelsonville, 94 team, I think went 10-0. They had Matt Call, Jason Gale, Justin Gale, Chad Emmons. Well, Coach McLaughlin was, pretty hard-nosed guy, and expected greatness out of, his defense. And, well, Coach Meade had him to be playing quarterback that day for our scout team. He gets us in the huddle, and he says, all right, Mitchell, I want you to go right in the middle of the linebackers and just settle right there. I thought, this is he trying to get me killed. So we break the huddle, I go out there and line up, and Coach snaps the ball, and I just run as far away from the middle as I could get. And so, I thought that was pretty intelligent of me. He could have called that play 10 more times, and I'd have done the same thing. So, I just had a great time here. I enjoyed all my teammates and coaches, and just can't say enough good things about them. I know we want to get this speech over with out of here, and so I'm really thankful, and I'm happy to be inducted into this class. Thank you, and good luck.
Our final inductee this evening is an NY graduate of the class of 1989. In his time at NY, Shawn Ward entered his name in Buckeye history as one of the best wrestlers to ever take the mat, and he helped lead the Buckeye Grapplers to TVC titles in both 1988 and 1989. Wrestling as an undersized heavyweight for Hall of Fame coach Tom McLaughlin's Buckeyes, Shawn didn't just compete, he dominated, in most cases against much bigger competition. He was known throughout our area as one of the toughest, strongest, and most determined wrestlers around. In 1989, Shawn Ward entered his senior season of wrestling with a total of 75 wins, 2 TVC titles, and a sectional championship already under his belt. Looking to push his career win total over 100 and to gain a spot on the podium to finish the year, he would do just that, and much, much more. His senior season would see him capture his 3rd straight TVC title in the heavyweight class, another sectional championship, a district championship, a TVC Most Valuable Wrestler award, and finally, cap his career, a spot on the podium, finishing 6th in the Ohio State Wrestling Tournament. Wrestling along with fellow Hall of Famer Matt Yager, the Buckeyes finished with their best team finish in school history. All of this while competing, I found out from Matt Yager last week, during the season in area big-time wrestling events as a masked grappler, something I suspect you weren't supposed to do during high school wrestling season. In his time at NY, Ward would tally 107 wins against 28 losses and 1 tie, finishing his career as one of Nelsonville-York's all-time greatest wrestlers.
We're really good friends, and good friends even after high school, but we pushed each other. So always make sure we went out and won tournaments or competed at a high level. It's just a great relationship, always pushing each other to be better than the other. And he definitely helped me to become the wrestler that I was in high school.
Hard worker, very, very hard worker, and that's probably all day life. He succeeded so much in the sport of wrestling. Shawn made up his mind to do something. He was going to do it, and he was going to do the best he could. When practice started, he was 100% until it ended.
The one that sticks out about Shawn Ward was his toughness. I mean, he was the toughest guy. Even me wrestling through college, and probably the toughest guy I ever wrestled with. I mean, he was mean, but not only mean, he was physical. I mean, he was going to get after you, and he was going to be relentless.
He was strong as a horse. He just didn't have any quality. He'd throw you around up there in the balcony. He was like a ping pong ball. When the pork cut up with you, he was a machine.
The guy was a light heavyweight, so he was about 225. And there was no 215 or 220 weight classes. They didn't have that when we wrestled. So he had to wrestle 275. But he was strong as any 275 guy you would see. He was strong as an ox. I mean, the guy could move mountains.
Shawn's his own special animal. As a wrestler, Shawn was just a freaking tank. As a person, he's just a big-hearted, loving, caring fellow.
Off the mat, man was as kind as could be. And you'd never believe he could be as tough as he was. But, you know, when you wrestle, the mentality of kindness went out the window.
Big football saying is, you flip the switch when you hit the field. Well, Shawn could flip the switch when he hit the mat. When Shawn went out to wrestle, win, lose, or draw, everybody knew he was there. Everyone didn't quit at him. You could go tell him, man, this guy just won 3 world championships. He's like, okay, let's go.
You always want to be around like-minded people, and people want to be successful in life, and that's what Shawn was. Shawn was an integral part of that team. You just really knew he was going to be out there competing to win a title. Senior years in the MVP league, he ran through everybody. He put everybody he wrestled in districts to win a district title.
As far as impact to the program, I think he just stood for Nelsonville the way Nelsonville was. We were tough, we were rough-nosed. The group of guys we had when I went through school to wrestle were just phenomenal guys. They were good people. And Shawn exemplifies that with his work, what he does today, and he just went on to live a life that meant something.
His willingness to compete at a high level and his toughness is what he's going to be remembered for. That's Shawn Ward. He's the toughest guy I've ever been around. He's a good friend of mine. I truly love him. You know, I'm a better person from knowing him. I was a better wrestler from him being able to wrestle with him.
Congratulations, well deserved.
I'm happy for him. I'm truly, truly happy for him. I mean, he's just a good person, and I thank him for being a part of my life. I'm blessed to have him as a friend of this day, and this is well deserved. I'm proud of him.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present for induction into the Nelsonville-York Athletic Hall of Fame, Mr. Shawn Ward.
Thank you, Steve. Oh, man, long speech. No. Real quick. Thanks, Nate. Thank Abby. And the Athletic Hall of Fame Committee, thank you for this honor. Thank my teammate, Matt, for the nomination. I really appreciate it. As long as I can remember, me and my brother wrestling in the backyard. I was supposed to have been doing a different kind of wrestling, big time wrestling. But Shawn, trying to keep me out of trouble, told me to, instead of getting in fights, just follow a few rules and wrestle for the wrestling team. So I appreciate that, Shawn. So, I'd like to thank some of my partners, of course, Eric Parsley, Danny Canner, Steve Netter, Scott Canner, Corey McDonald, recently told me that he wasn't my wrestling partner, he was my wrestling dummy. But also Scott Mount and John Davis, they would come in the postseason, get me ready for the sectionals and the districts. I appreciate them coming in. Terwilliger, some of you know him as Moose. He came in my junior year. Him and his wife, Kristen, they really took care of me my junior, my senior year. Kind of took me in, and I really appreciate it. I love it. 38 years, they've been part of my life, and I really love them for it. I started wrestling for Rob Weinford during my junior high years. Rob was very enthusiastic, always recruiting kids. Kids liked wrestling for Rob, very passionate about wrestling. I was glad I was able to coach with him when I got out of high school. But when I got into high school, I called my freshman year the dark years. It was hard. I want to say I was about 240, 245, maybe even 250. But Coach, because I was a bigger, softer, heavyweight, he expected me to do everything else that everybody else was doing. There was no excuses. He wanted, well, it was kind of funny. He said, I don't know why you're panting for it. Just put one leg in front of the other. Just run, like everybody else. I didn't know why I thought of that. I didn't know why I didn't think of that. But everybody was kind of shied away from him. I never kind of said, I can't do that, Coach. I just put my head down, did the best I could, and I think he recognized that. I kind of thought, wondered, did he see something? I kind of thought he knew what he had. I think he knew what he had. I knew what he knew what, each one of us was capable of doing. And Coach, a story about Coach, my junior year, I want to, don't quote me on the tournament. I want to say the weekend before, I want to say it was the Galveston tournament. I dislocated my shoulder and I had stitches in my head. I want to say it was the Galveston tournament, Coach. And I showed up Monday and I just got my shoulder put back in place. And Coach said, what's going on? I said, I think I'll be all right this weekend. And he goes, I think your year's done. I said, no, I think I'll be okay. And I said, we still got wrestle-offs. And he allowed me to wrestle off. And I don't even know how I won. And he allowed me to wrestle off. I think the other heavyweight tripped over his feet. But he wasn't done with me. He came up to me and said, you have a bye in the first round, but Trimble brought their reserve, and you have a chance to wrestle that round. But if you lose, he gets to take your place, and you're just out. Now, the first two periods, I was on my back because I hooked my son's shoulder. I was on my back, and it was like, maybe done. And I'm looking at him, I got this. And he goes, I think you're done. But he, I think, I'm not even sure what happened. I can't explain it, but he also tripped over his feet. I pinned him. But he allowed me to continue to wrestle. And he believed in me that day. And somehow, I ended up winning that tournament. And thanks for believing in me, Coach. I think sometimes you just had to see if I was determined. I wanted it bad enough. I was afraid of two things when I was in high school. Coach and the trainer. You didn't go to the trainer unless Coach said, go see the trainer. But if you went to the trainer without Coach saying, go see the trainer, you was at a one sympathy. Not a good thing. So, I'm very blessed to have Coach, to have me coach in my life. I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but I just want to get out of here. But, last but not least, I'm blessed to have my family here. I'm blessed to have my wife. She's been my partner, my best friend. She's been very supportive. She's stronger than most men that I know. She's been very patient with me. We've raised two amazing daughters, very successful. We've been promoted to grandparents. We have William, Elizabeth, and Kelly. Hopefully a couple wrestlers in the making very soon. A lot of elements in making me successful here in Nelsonville. You take any of those elements away, I'm not standing here today. I've been president of my union. I've been president of my council in my village. I've been mayor of my village. And today I am a Hall of Famer at Nelsonville-York forever. I'm going to leave you with a quote from Dan Gable. Once you've wrestled, everything else in life is easy. I thank you. I appreciate everything, and I appreciate my time here in Nelsonville. Go Buckeyes.
Folks, as we end our evening, let's give Christy Poling and her crew back there a great hand for this wonderful meal. That's the reason I show up every year. We certainly appreciate it. For you Hall of Fame inductees, as we said earlier, we are going to introduce you tomorrow night at the football game. Meet at the end zone closest to the school at 6:20. Coach Klein will be there. If you're not able to be there tomorrow night, if you'd let him or Nathan or I know, we'd appreciate it so we know who's going to be there. And for the last time, or one more time tonight, would our 2025 inductees please stand? Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a great evening. We thank you all for coming. We hope to see you next year. Get those applications in. Thanks for coming, folks.